Good evening. It's my pleasure to call this regularly scheduled city council meeting of the Grosse Pointe Farm City Council to order. I would ask Sergeant Veronica Cashin, are you here, Sergeant?
Yep.
Please step forward and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. Thank you, Sergeant. Mr. Kozicki, as clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Lloyd. Councilmember Conrad Wolf.
Here.
Councilmember Ritchie.
Here.
Mayor Kalu.
Here.
Councilmember Donovan. Mayor Pro Tem Soroka. Here. Councilmember Jensen.
Here.
Thank you. Everyone's present. I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held on December 8th, 2025, and the special meeting held on December 15, 2025.
So moved.
Support. There's been a motion made with support. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Next, it's one of the great nights of the year where we have a promotion ceremony for two absolutely fantastic officers in our public safety department. I'd ask our director, Mr. Hutchins, to come forward together with Public Safety Officer William Madsen and Sergeant Veronica Cashin, please.
Good evening, everybody. Good
Good evening.
Mayor, city council members, families, and friends, we appreciate the opportunity to present our promotions to you again this evening. Seems like the last 2 years have been pretty busy with retirements, new hires, and promotions. Tonight's promotions come as a result of the retirement of Lieutenant Matt Herter, whose last day was yesterday. So the promotions are timely. Some of you have heard the explanation of the promotional process before, but for the benefit of those who haven't, these officers performed admirably in the promotional process, which consists of a written exam, oral board interviews comprised of command officers from outside of the Grosse Pointe and Harper Woods, as well as internal evaluations from Farms command staff, which includes sergeants all the way up to me. So we appreciate the ability to recognize them publicly. Officers, when I call your name, please step forward. You already have. So, Veronica Cashin and her husband, Jim.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, he's TPD.
2012, previous experience at both Detroit Police Department and Harper Woods Police Department. She was forced to leave our department in 2018 after a career-ending injury, but worked her way back as a dispatcher, public safety officer, and field training officer, and was promoted to the rank of sergeant in March of 2024. Since that time, she has attended fire command schools, worked as an assistant shift commander, field training unit supervisor, and assumed control of our dispatch crew. Veronica is here this evening to receive the badge from her husband, Lieutenant Jim Cashin, a 39-year veteran of the Detroit Police Department.
Wow.
We congratulate Lieutenant Cashin for a job well done.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Sergeant. Lieutenant, thank you very much.
Lieutenant, congratulations.
Sergeant, she's sergeant.
Job.
She's sergeant.
She's in charge.
Well, that's.
Yeah.
Or. what do I say? Will came to the department in 2021 at the age of 20, bringing with experience as a firefighter for the South Lyon Fire Department and public service aide for the Nixon Police Department. Over the course of the last 5 years, he has been a productive member of both shifts and the traffic unit, while overseeing the administration of vehicle impounds and most recently prisoner processing. His big smile, consistently positive attitude, and willingness to step up in the performance of his duties all contribute to his place here this evening. Will is here tonight with his wife Sarah to assist us in promoting him to the rank of Public Safety Sergeant. We congratulate Sergeant Madison.
Pleasure. Thank you. Oops. Sergeant, congratulations. Appreciate it.
Well done, sir.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Enormous. Wow.
Congrats. Congratulations. Well done. Congratulations.
Thank you. Everyone, that concludes our little ceremony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Hutchins, thank you so very much. We are so very, very proud of all the men and women of our Public Safety Department who go above and beyond every day. As I've said before to members and to residents within the city, we get a report each week of the activities of our Public Safety Department that take place on a weekly basis. And it's absolutely amazing what they respond to on a weekly basis, how they not only help us, but help residents of nearby communities. So we are indeed grateful. Thanks again. Next, as a matter of privilege, I want to just switch agenda items very briefly and go to number 6 and entertain a motion to adjourn or to recess the city council and to go into deliberations as the Board of Zoning Appeals. I think we can move this quicker than 107 Kirchville. Is there a motion to recess the city council and convene as the Board of Zoning Appeals?
Motion.
Is there support?
Support.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Who's here, please, to discuss the proposed dimensional variance for the property located at 417 Barclay? Good evening again. Please give us your name and addresses for the record.
My name is Tom Angelotti. My wife Pam's here. I'm at 417 Barclay, Grosse Point Farm.
Thank you.
My name is Brian Shackley at 25 Fall Red Sacred Forest. I'm the architect for Tommy.
Thank you, sir. We had previously entertained this dimensional variance request at a prior meeting. We had asked you to come back with revised drawings, which you were kind enough to do. Is there any statement that you'd like to make before I turn it over to members of City Council and the public for their questions and or comments,
I
sir?
would, and thank you for allowing me to come back.
Of course.
I misspoke last time I was here about not having a practical difficulty in this project. I'm not experienced on appearing from these boards, and I do apologize for that. So we'll present new plans of the here.
Great.
So just from a purely from the zoning standpoint, the legal practical difficulty was briefly discussed last time. From my end is that in Tom's case, there's a variable setback along the street. You understand that this was changed years ago from what the schedule of regulations requires, which is 25-foot setback to an average setback. And other properties along that same street, on the same side as Tom, would be able to, even within the variable setback, achieve a viable third car bay on their garage, which is also by right use.
Tom's hardship is that the siting of his property was originally built sort of on the lower end of the town. And so our process was to try and minimize the extension of Forest Three to try and maintain one, the spirit of the zoning ordinance, which is to maintain that 25-foot setback as the absolute minimum we would design to, as well as kind of going through a process of finding and selecting custom garage doors to sort of keep within that dimensional requirement. We know from our last meeting that we kind of want to make some design changes. We talked about, we planned that with Greg. We changed that visualization on the updated set of prints. And we've also added a couple of windows, so we're trying to maintain the character of the neighborhood as best as possible. Along with, making sure that there's still proper plantings shown that we are going to actually do landscaping in front of it like there was originally. And for all intents and purposes, aside from slightly different window placement, it is an identical new wall facing the street. So trying to maintain that architectural character that's already there, and allow Tom to have a third bay by the way, and just asking for that minor addition.
Thank you. First, I'd ask our Director of Public Service, Mr. Baca, if he has any questions or comments of the applicant for the variance, please.
No, I think they, based on the comments of the last time they made the change requested, but that the professional remains the same. I think you introduced about 9 inches.
Yeah, it did actually come down a few inches by, after discussing with Tom and wanting to try and come up with the absolute minimum we could possibly do. We shifted to an even smaller bare minimum with garage door for the third car that they're trying to have.
Great. Great. I'm going to start to my left tonight for questions or comments by members of City Council. Councilmember Jensen, you're up if you have any questions or comments, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Your difficulty, can you explain, you said you didn't quite understand your first time here, what your practical difficulty might be after time to check it out?
So the practical difficulty in the design was that the 25 foot setback would have allowed this to be built this way originally. The 30-foot average does not. On a personal level, the reason for needing to house the cars is security. Right after the last meeting here, the day after when I went to work, my wife's car doors were both open. And I'm concerned for her safety. I work the road at night sometimes, and it's important that her car is in the garage, that we can protect it. Keep her safe. Not getting any younger. And I believe this would, I think the addition looks great. With the windows added and the landscaping added, I've talked to neighbors about it. I think it would be, make the house look even better as it does.
I believe at least one, if not two of your neighbors, one had a stolen car, and one had another car broken into in the last few months, I believe, might have been a year.
Yeah.
So what you're basically saying is, if you don't get this variance and you want to continue to work on your antique or collectible car in your garage, one of your cars will always have to be outside of either the street or on the sidewalk.
I actually sold the car, but the real reason we need to do this is we own 3 cars. Her mom's car and mine are 2, and I like to keep inside. The antique car is not part of her long-term plan, but that's what I was doing at the time, so. Yeah. Just want this for security. Makes me nervous when she's alone. So,
I understand.
I appreciate the consideration.
Thank you.
And just to verify, in terms of the practical difficulty that was discussed, and you can underscore what Councilman Benson shared. What I read in your application specifically spoke to a practical difficulty that was created insofar as homes were constructed along the street to create a non-uniform series of front yard setbacks. And where portions of a proposed addition can comply with regulations and other portions not. So there's some unique qualities to the structure of the lot that require this.
Yes, that, so from our standpoint, as the architectural, firm, approaching it purely from a zoning law standpoint, what a legal practical difficulty is versus a personal practical difficulty. And in that sense, there are properties within the area that we're looking at that you to calculate the average that would be right now if they were to contract me, create a third bay without having to come in front of you to ask for permission. And so in Tom's case and a few of the other properties, they're sort of in the other side of things where you have to come in and ask for them.
Yeah, and just to be clear, also too, I very much appreciated the ways in which you were responsive to the discussion that we had in December. I think this proposal very much reflects the discussion that happened during that.
Thank you. Councilmember Donovan, any questions or comments, please?
Mr. Mayor, I just appreciate sometimes understanding the definition of a practical difficulty and hardship can be overwhelming if you don't have an attorney involved. And you're not the first one to come before us that really didn't know how to articulate it and then admitted it. So I appreciate you, as my colleague have stated, coming back before us and being responsive. That means a lot. It shows a lot. Thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity to do it.
Thank you. Councilmember Ritchie, any questions or comments, sir?
I'm very happy with what you've done with the improvement factors. This area of the city is very, very unique. It was designed in the late 50s, early 60s by Cox and Baker, who was the premier builder at that time. All the houses are different. The streets are neat, a lot of ranches, and anything that we can do in that area to bring it up to up the standard and to modernization, I'm 100% behind it. We do have the one issue with the water, and hopefully in the next 2 years, that'll be completely taken care of. When you look at the 8-inch pipes that they took out and the 5-inch or 5 feet pipe they're putting in. So all in all, I commend you on your rendition of what you want to do there.
Thank you.
You have my support. Thank you.
Councilmember Conrad Wilberding, please.
I too am very satisfied as far as the changes that have been made and your accountability and your willingness to work with us. Thank you.
Councilmember Wood.
As opposed to Beth, I'm not happy with what you're talking about. Safety and security is a personal issue, not a practical difficulty. Concerns regarding vehicle security are not unique to this property. If it were the case that we would give you a variance based on security and safety, everybody in your neighborhood would be coming to us and saying, I want a third, fourth, or fifth garage bay. In my view, you need to tell me exactly what is unique about the property that prevents you from meeting the zoning ordinance. I don't see it at all. And so I'm going to vote no until I hear otherwise.
So from our perspective, as the architect firm, we're approaching it really from a dimensional variance standard, and that requires us to show a practical difficulty that the required dimension for the front setback would preclude Tom from having a block radius, which in this case would be the third car garage, and that similar homes along that same stretch will be able to. This is just purely from my experience doing this in other communities, that sometimes it's, hey, everybody's at 25, we're asking for 20, we're gonna get it done. In this case, I think the fact that there are other homes that could do this on the same block, given the same design, and not really have any reason to come with a request that. In Tom's case, that how it was built, it was instructed closer to, for whatever reason, it was cited slightly differently. All the homes are cited slightly differently. In Tom's case, it's just on the low end of the sliding scale.
When the house was originally built at the 25-foot setback, this plan would have met requirements. So the difficulty is the 30-foot average.
Yeah, and that's generally the other requirement that we see, is that we're still trying to be in keeping with the spirit of the ordinance, which is what we've tried to attempt to do.
Well, you've mentioned by right several times, sir. By right to me means you have a right to build what the ordinance says within the required setbacks. You cannot go outside the required setback by right. So that's just not the way it works.
Yeah, to clarify, I mean like a by right use versus not, obviously, we're asking for a variance of dimension in that sense. We're asking for what otherwise is allowed, meaning if there's car bay. And that the dimensional requirements as they stand right now would prevent him from, constructing a version of that.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments by members of council? If you would, I please ask you to step aside for a moment and I will entertain public comment from any, I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson.
I'd like to make a comment based on, it's the security being a personal thing. It's not just a personal thing, well, it's a professional thing, and we wouldn't have the police here. We wouldn't have the police force that tries to patrol every street every night and everything. So I think it is somewhat on us to assist a homeowner that's willing to pay the extra money to keep his family safe and his cars from being broken into and theft. And the only variance he typically needs is to get a little closer to the sidewalk. I'd agree with you if the design of the garage was going to deviate from the Cox and Baker mid-century modern neighborhood. But I think we've been doing here for the last couple of years in the public paper, in the newspapers, asking people to lock their cars, take their stuff out of the car, take the key. Now I've got a resident here that's willing to spend the money to put another one-car garage on that meets everything but the setback and to protect his family and his goods, his property, and his car. And there's no practical difficulty. I have to disagree a little bit on it. I know what you're saying, that really security isn't really, but it is part of what we do in Big Eye. That's what this community is known for.
Mayor Gooley,
Thank you, Mr. Wood.
can I ask our attorney for a clarification?
You may.
Bill, in your view, has anybody used safety and security as we're talking about it here as a practical difficulty?
Well, I'd have to go back in the annals of several decades to be able to answer that question correctly, but I think I can go to the thrust of what you're asking by saying it this way. Question of a practical difficulty is a question of fact for 7 members of the zoning board of appeals to determine if 5 of those members find, as a matter of fact, that there's a practical difficulty, then that's conclusory. There could be circumstances where, as a matter of law, those 5 votes could be overruled. It's rare that that happens as a matter of law. I think that the debate between Councilman Wood and Jensen may be, however, missing the fact that you could articulate a practical difficulty that would justify this variance. I haven't heard it yet tonight. But if one were to articulate that because of the variable setback configuration of this block of Barton, the practical difficulty to me is that without completely relocating the residential structure and the related garage facilities, in order to meet that variable setback, the applicant wouldn't be able to construct the garage facility that would eliminate his difficulty or hardship. If someone were to articulate it that way, I think it would be a legitimate practical.
Mr. Angelotti, you were just off the softball at a very slow speed. Did you hear what our city attorney said with regard to the, because of the variable nature of the property and the like, that you would not be able to get this project completed without moving your residents, things of that nature? Do you incorporate by reference the comments made by the city attorney with regard to your request that we find that a practical difficulty exists in support of your application, sir. Thank you, sir. Any further questions by city council members? Before I ask for comment by members of the general public? Any comments by members of the public, please? Any neighbors? Anyone have any questions, comments that they'd like to address council? If not, I'm prepared to entertain a motion with regard to.
I have a motion.
Yes, please. I'm prepared to entertain a motion with regard to the request for a dimensional variance for the property located at 417 Barclay to allow the construction of an additional garage bay as an extension to the existing garage. Council, Mayor Pro Tem Soroka.
I move that the appeals application submitted on December 11th by Thomas Anganati, the owner of 417 Barclay, for construction of the new garage bay on his property granted, thereby authoring the issuance of a building permit to construct the structure that reduces the minimum front yard setback to 25 feet versus the 30.64 feet required in the R1 residential district, given the city's code, section 402, subsection 2. To reach this decision, we have reviewed Mr. Matt Baca's memo dated January 12, 2025, the detailed review letter from McKenna dated December 23rd, 2025, and the applicant's appeals application, as well as comments tonight. Potential factual findings indicate that strict application of the zoning ordinance would result in a practical difficulty for the user of the property due to the unique way in which homes were constructed along the street to create a non-uniform series of front yard setbacks where portions of the proposed addition can comply with regulations and portions cannot. The new garage will continue to be in compliance with all other zoning ordinances requirements other than the minimum front yard setback, and we anticipate that any change for the surrounding residents, or that any change for these surrounding residences will be minimal. The variance is in harmony with and serves the intent and purposes of the ordinance because 1, the variance will not result in increased population density. 2, the variance will not adversely affect the government services or district character. And 3, the siting, character, location, and intended use of the proposed building will be largely unchanged. The proposed standard meets these, proposed variance meets the standard of Article 85. The variance will result in substantial justice being done because the R1 residential district provides for 3-car garages, and without a variance, the owner will not be able to utilize that allowance and store his existing cars on site in a safe way. Moreover, following an initial hearing on December 8th, 2025, the applicant has made substantial changes to the plan to further limit the encroachment of the garage in the front yard setback by 3 inches and provide for a brick masonry facade, windows, and landscape plan to better serve the addition. The proposed variance will not substantially interfere with or injure the rights of persons whose property is affected by the proposed variance. Approval of this variance is subject to the following conditions. 1, that the proposed expanded garage incorporates brick masonry, windows, and landscape plan as shared tonight to avoid presenting a completely blank facade to the public way.
Thank you. City Attorney Burgess, do we have a valid motion, sir? Thank you. Is there support for the motion of Mayor Pro Tem Soroka?
Support.
Councilman Ritchie, is there any further discussion by council? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Thank you. And I should note, when I said council, I mean Board of Zoning Appeals. My apologies. The motion carries. Mr. Angelotti, Mrs. Angelotti, thank you very much to your architect as well. I've driven by your place several times, spoken with neighbors. The way you maintain your premises exterior is fantastic. Thank you for being here twice. We appreciate the changes you made to your plan. We're always happy to work with you. Good evening. Thank you. Next, I'll entertain a motion.
It's not lost on me.
Thank you very much. Yes, understood. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn as the Board of Zoning Appeals and reconvene as City Council. Is there such a motion?
Motion.
By Councilmember Donovan. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilmember Conrad Wilberding. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. We now are acting as City Council. Let's please move to agenda item 5. Consideration of a preliminary site plan for an early child care center located at 107 Kercheval Avenue. Good evening. Here, who is here to speak on behalf of the applicant, please? Good evening again. Hi, how are you? Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Bradford Egan. I'm development manager for 814 Commercial Real Estate, 1695 12 Mile in Berkeley, Michigan, 48072. And this is our CEO, Reed Fenton, same address for 814 Mercer Wilson. We have heard your concerns as far as the daycare center that we are proposing at 107 Kirchhoff. And we'd like to go through a short PowerPoint presentation to give you an idea of what, how we're going to address those concerns best.
Please do.
First, we'd like to just give a brief overview of the project again. We're talking about 107 Kirchhoff, the former Rite Aid store. The first floor is approximately 10,000 square feet. We are proposing to put another 6,800 square feet on the second floor. And then we have a playground area of approximately 1,200 square feet. However, we're making making revisions to our plans right now to potentially make that a 3,000 square foot play area on the second floor, and then put our rooftop units on the roof of the second story to make there more room for the students. The capacity of the school would be approximately 179 students, and ages would be 6 weeks to 6 years old. And in the first meeting I was here, I said 6 months to 6 years, so I'm correcting that with this. Within the B1 zoning, we would need a use variance necessary to permit the use. Again, going over a little bit of what I had said before, 814, it's actually a 10-year anniversary. We have done over 180 projects in 37 plus states and over $650 million in real estate developed across the country. A large portion of that is childcare. We consider ourselves an expert in the field of early education for families nationwide. The N Family School is UK based. It is a company that's been in business since 2017. They focus on a holistic early education program with children from 0 to 6. Pardon that typo. But they emphasize experiential, play-based learning, strong family involvement, and preparing kids for school through unique methods like the N Family approach, blending academics, readiness with social emotional skills and supportive, beautifully designed environments. They foster community with parent events, flexible hours. Their support staff is highly trained and certified, and they focus on sustainability and positive impact.
Thank you, so. Elaborate a bit further on both of the groups. So, as Brad mentioned, we do a lot of early education development across the country. We're actually the largest early education developer in the country. And we have built in many states, know the licensing rules across the board. So I say a lot of that to provide perspective. Any questions that are industry related, I'm happy to answer them. We've worked with almost all of the national operators, close to 15 different groups at this point, ranging from subsidy operators all the way to absolute premier providers. So if you'd like just general industry perspective, have to share. And that's also why we think N Family is the best possible use for your community. They are the premier provider in London. I've visited a number of their schools. They are very cool, very different from a lot of what is offered here. All of their food for the kids, I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, so it's all cooked from scratch, organic food for all the kids. And that's a rarity you don't see a lot here. They have a lot of physical activities, and they believe a lot more in the natural play or more simple play, like a Montessori style, but it's a curriculum that was created by a Cambridge professor, blended with a lot of the more commonly accepted approaches here. So they are the highest end provider in London, and we are bringing them to the States. Obviously very biased towards Michigan. This was our first spot we suggested they come. I'm hoping to get one done near where I live so I can put my son in there. But anyway, I just wanted to elaborate on the youth themselves. There's a huge variety of groups in the early education space, and this would be the premier provider that you could want in your community.
One of the major concerns that came up was the parking. And what we're proposing, this is actually a slide, well, the graph portion of the slide was provided by Grosse Pointe Farms Public Safety. It goes over the use of the lot and the number of cars in the lot throughout the day. The first three, the blue, the red, and the gray are from 7 a.m., 8 a.m., and 9 a.m. The orange, another blue, and then the green are from 4, 5, and 6 o'clock in the afternoon. As you can see, in the morning, there's really not a parking issue at all. There's 220 spaces approximately in that surface lot. And as you can see, the highest number they had from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. was 53 cars that were in at 9 a.m. on a Friday, which is the last portion of the graph. From 4 until 6 p.m., the largest portion of cars that were in the lot was 115, leaving 105 roughly spaces left over for the community. So from the standpoint of usage of that surface lot, I think there is ample space in the lot. However, on the next slide, we'll show what we're actually asking for. There's 12 spaces that are colored in green, and there are 12 spaces that are covered in yellow. Those 24 spaces, according to the usage of the lot, are prohibited to be parked in from 6 a.m. until 9:30 a.m. Our ask in that regard would be to be able to use these spaces for drop off in the morning prior to 9:30 a.m. We can more than handle the drop off of the children with these 24 spaces. To give you an idea, it takes about 7 to 10 minutes for a drop off to occur, or a pickup for that matter. We talked about it early on in an earlier meeting. It's for lack of a better term, it's very transactional. Parents get out of their car, they take their child in, they check them in, they go to work, or they come in, they pick up their child, get them to the car, and then they take them home. So in the morning, prior to 9:30 a.m., we would ask that we would be able to use those 24 spaces for the drop off of the children. For our employee parking, the employee parking, we are making our way through getting authorization and leasing spaces of 35 in the Henry Ford Health System parking structure on Mira. So the 35 spaces there would be designated for staff. So there would be no staff members that would park in this surface lot throughout the day. The other part of our request with the city would be the green spaces that you see, the 12 green spaces that are right against St. James Way behind the building. We would ask that we would be able to lease those spaces at the set lease amount. I think it's $80 a month. Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. And that those 12 spaces would be dedicated to our use at the daycare center. But other than that, that would be the only ask out of this parking lot for pickup and drop off. And to give you an idea, if we go back to the 7 to 10 minute average to pick up or drop off your child, those 12 spaces, if you talk about a 7 to 10 minute time frame, could handle up to 72 cars per hour. Now, do all the people show up at once? No, this is not. It's very different than Gabriel Richard has a set time that they start school. So the parents show up 15, 20 minutes early to drop their children off at school. And that's where the lineup comes in. Daycare is significantly different than that. It's much more staggered. It's much more, I don't want to say piecemeal, but it's not everybody showing up at the same time. People are coming in at different times. They're dropping their children off at different times. They're picking their children up at different times. And again, these are what we believe to be non-peak hours from the businesses, the entertainment portion of the businesses on the hill. And is there anything to add this?
Sure, just some further context around the drop offs. Generally speaking, the morning range is 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. And so if you spread that out, even as Brad had mentioned, the 12 spaces can hold 72 cars. This is more than enough parking for drop off. Our average development across the country for a similar capacity is about 45 spaces in total. So we're talking about 35 in a lot, as well as an additional 24. It's in excess of what we do as a matter of practice. The other piece, just to mention, is you're looking at that chart. My guess is because this is an entertainment district, more of your peak hours are nights and weekends. So as far as the conflict goes and saying there's not enough parking, this is your single best use for parking. Any commercial zoning or medical office or anything else you're gonna have in there is gonna have similar peak hours to the rest of the businesses. It'd be much more of a burden. What we're talking about is a lesser burden during the down hours, so it really complements all of your other uses.
The next concern we heard was about traffic flow. And so on here, we've got some arrows. We added a one-way sign on St. James Way, if you can see that. But primarily, you're going to have people coming from the east and from the west. They'll pull up into McMillan. They will go east into the parking lot. They'll use the designated spaces that we've discussed. And then they will make a flow around the parking lot and exit towards Muir to the east. So all the traffic is going to travel east away from Trombley School, where I think a lot of the concern was with regard to pick up and drop off for the children. And Family School would also provide new parents with a comprehensive pickup and drop off plan so that they could be in tune in the most efficient way and pick up and drop off their children most efficiently. We're also open to suggestions from public safety. We've had a little bit of discussion with them where we would work with them to implement any safety measures they thought, which could be additional signage. If there was a desire to possibly put speed bumps into St. James Way, which we will not have anyone traveling down St. James Way other than possibly someone delivering something, food to the daycare center. So we are in full, we're fully on board to help out with public safety to make sure that this is signed properly. We've heard that there's been instances where people come down St. James Way in the wrong direction. There was a concern in one of the letters that somebody's going to come in, put their hazards on, be on St. James Way, drop their kids off. We're going to make it clear to all parents through the comprehensive pickup and drop off plan that will provide them that that is unacceptable. And if there's a penalty for that parent, that's a possibility as well.
And just to reiterate the point before around parking, it's the same concept. This is the lowest impact use you can have on that parking lot. So as far as traffic goes from Richard Elementary, that's all flowing west, this all flows east. Just purely on volume of cars, the Rite Aid that was there, your average drugstore has 500 to 2,000 or 3,000 visitors per day. So if you compare that to an early education facility that has 179 children and again, 25 teachers, all parking in the parking garage, not in that parking lot, this is going to be your lowest impact on traffic and parking.
And there's also the opportunity that a parent may have two children that they're going to drop off for daycare So that would lower the amount of traffic impact even further.
And keep in mind, this group is used to operating in London, which is horrific with traffic. Like they can very easily navigate this and help educate their teachers and the parents to keep their kids safe and make sure this does not cause an issue.
Next slide would be regarding the use variance. Childcare is not a permitted use in B1 zoning. The hardship arises basically from the absence of any ordinance in regards to daycare facilities in Grosse Pointe Farms. So just by matter of process, there's a hardship because there is no ordinance for daycare in Grosse Pointe Farms.
And I would say this is very common, especially in your upper income communities across the country. I'd say more than half our developments are either a special use or a use variance required because it's a unique use that doesn't necessarily fit in a bucket of commercial or office or whatever it may be. So again, this is something we've had to overcome dozens of times, and we found that most groups have accepted it as the hardship is purely because there's very few cities that have a by right location unless they plan for that in advance.
We have also approached like Tremblay School, and there was no reception at all to selling that property. So we have looked at other opportunities, other things in the area, and that has brought us to you today. The overlay district being an entertainment district. One, we touched on this before, our business hours would be opposite peak times for restaurants in the areas, and there would be no weekend childcare business hours. So from 6:30 on Friday until early Monday morning, there wouldn't be a daycare car in that lot. The opportunity for childcare users to discover the Hill businesses and create added vibrancy to the area is also something that I think should be considered pretty greatly. There are a lot of people that may not know what the Hill is all about, know the retailers, the restaurants, the ambiance that's there, and even the real estate offices, the business offices, the banks, things like that. You may find that a lot of these daycare users are going to patronize the local businesses that are on the Hill right now. Additionally, I did meet with the Hill Association ownerships group, and End Family School would be amenable to working with the Hill Owners Association to market to the child care users and try to increase local patronage. We want to help the community. Going back to the first time I was here, our tagline is enriching communities through real estate. And I think that's what we're trying to do here.
I think one of the proposed students is disagreeing with some of the things you're saying, but please continue.
Okay. One other thing I'd like to mention, that there was a question that came up about the MLCC, the Liquor Control Commission, and the proximity issue of being 500 feet from a school. The LCC does not classify daycare as a school. Daycare or a school, from the LCC's perspective, is K through 12. A daycare does not apply. However, if it ever came up that this was an issue for proximity purposes from the LCC, or if anything from the LCC came up, we would have the option, if it was us that was causing the issue, we would have the option to sign a waiver in order to allow for any use to come through. We would be amenable to signing that waiver and giving it to you now before anything happens, so that there was no concern that we would ever put up a fight for any kind of new development. Because, you know, after all, from our perspective, and again, I'm a Grosse Pointer, born and raised, it's still the Hill. You're not going to have the wrong element coming in. You're not going to have, you know, restaurants that are not doing the right thing as far as this community is concerned. It's not going to happen. So we would be willing to sign that waiver today if that was something that was a concern. The next concern was in regards to the building design. I did see something in the letters that was calling for a dead zone. If you look at the previous Rite Aid, and I wish I had an elevation of the previous Rite Aid in this slideshow, and I apologize for that, but the Rite Aid had from the east side almost fully to the west side.
4 of the 7 panels.
Yeah, 4 of the 7 panels were all enclosed. There was no glazing on that portion of the building. So you were walking past something that did not have transparent glass or any kind of glazing whatsoever. Our design is to put glazing all across the entire frontage, including the second floor. The alleyway or the breezeway, I'll call it, between the buildings. We're looking at putting additional glazing there, and then putting additional glazing on the back side of the building so that you have transparent glass throughout the perimeter of the building. One of the things that came up was, well, you could put graphics on it, you could frost the windows, you could do that sort of thing. And we would be willing to, our solution being that we would be willing to agree that no graphics or permanent coverings would be used on the building at any time.
And I think you'll just find this consistent with all these minor concerns is whatever you'd like us to do, we will do. We feel the use is great for this location. This feels exactly like their existing uses in the UK. And I think so long as it doesn't, obviously burden their operations, like this natural light requirement, they have a natural light requirement as a company to make sure the kids are constantly exposed to sunlight, not shoved in a dark room. So whatever you'd like to see, we're happy to be amenable to make the changes.
The next slide just goes through a little bit more of the building design. The Kirchville elevation, obviously, we've spoken about that. Very attractive, very complementary to the rest of the community and the rest of the businesses on the hill. Even the backside of the building, which would face St. James Way and the surface lot, I think is an excellent view from any angle on this building. So I just wanted to reiterate that building.
It would be a nice.
And beautiful.
I'm going to turn this slide over to Mr. Fenton. He can articulate this market demand just a little bit better though.
So as I mentioned, we work with a number of groups across the country in communities similar to this. And we've been fortunate to learn from a lot of these operators on how to depict demand or how to identify the right location. So one of the most simple methods is just the demand ratio. And so you'll see in the top right there, there's licensed seats of 83. What we're referring to really is a regional or national operator, someone that if you were to Google early education, that's where you would go. And so with that being 83 licensed seats, and then for the number of children, the roughly 2,300, that is for that red outline you can see in that map. So we're highlighting just Grosse Pointe. If we did a radius, it would more than double that. So this is very specifically the target demographic is the residents of Grosse Pointe. So simply put, in just a logical comparison, you have a total number of licensed capacity or seats per kid, and then you have a total number of kids, and those kids, that's 0 to 4. So 11 kid or 0 to 6, this is just 0 to 4. So in some of the areas that are more overbuilt, maybe you have a 1-to-1 ratio. So you can have 1 seat for every 1 kid that exists. In Washington, DC, that's very common. We were just there the other week. So anywhere of that 1 to 3, you somewhat proceed with caution because there may not be enough demand to make sure that your building can stay full. 3 to 5 is really what we see in a community across the country. Say, all right, there is justified demand. We know that if we were to open up in a community where that is the ratio, they'll open up and meet expectations. Anywhere over a 5X, I don't think I've ever seen a school open without a wait list once you have that sort of demand ratio. And although the 50X that I have on there, it could appear dramatic, the fact is it's the truth. And there's, of course, your homes that you can go to, there's churches, there's after-school programs. None of them are curriculum-based, focused on the 6 weeks, all the way to the 6 years. The gross majority of these are lacking some element. So if you want a curriculum-based early education, that's what this comparison is trying to say. And that's for the families in this community. So I say that as the 50X, because even after we were to deliver this location, 179 kids, you're still at 10X. So your demand ratio is worse than almost anywhere we've seen. So a lot of this is just to demonstrate if there wasn't enough positive feedback from the community already for this need, this is factual. This is what we use day to day for all of our groups across the country to depict that this area is grossly underserved for early education. So happy to answer any questions on it, but this is the simplest way we can try and map this out to say, is there a need for this in the community?
Thank you. I am going to reverse the order somewhat, and I'm going to call for public comment first so that both you and members of council can react to public comment and follow up with any questions that we might have. So if you would give way to the podium now, that would be much appreciated. And I would note to our residents and other interested parties that we have in fact received additional public comment since our last two meetings discussing this issue. And I advised everyone that their comments are very much appreciated, very important. And just so the record is clear, the following individuals have provided City Council with written comments. Grace Vev of 15601 Essex Avenue in favor. Caitlin Calfut, K-A-L-F-U-T, in favor. Ms. Katie Jordan of Grosse Pointe Farms in favor. Ms. Wendy Subel and John Arnold of 61 Lothrop opposed. Dominic Giancola, the owner of iCryo and on the Hill and Grosse Pointe Farms in favor. Mr. Frederick J. Frazard, who has a business on the Hill at 25 Winthrop Place, opposed. Ed Russell, the managing partner of Russell Development, opposed. Ms. Anita Millers of 231 Kenwood Court, opposed. Ms. Maria Simon of 63 Cloverly in favor. Ms. Rachel Moran of 1828 Broadstone and Grosse Pointe Woods in favor. Their comments are been noted by the city clerk, will all be made part of the record. And at this point, we would entertain public comment. Please step forward to the podium if you'd like to make a comment. The Open Meetings Act requires that we obtain from you your name and address of record before making any comment. I would kindly ask that you please spell your last name for us, and we'll begin to hear public comment. Excuse me.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, one correction. I believe Miss Wendy Sobel was in favor of the proposal.
My apologies. Thank you. Sobel and John Arnold of 61 Lothrop. Thank you. Anyone like to speak? Come on up. No particular order. Good evening. Thank you very much for coming. Name and address, please.
Miller. I'm one of the people you said read my comment, though the address is 241.
241 Kenwood Court. Thank you.
I don't want to say I'm necessarily opposed, but I don't think there's been much discussion on the issue. I think it comes also down to the footprint of the hill. We have one block, both sides. You can't compare us to the village. That's at least 3 blocks, both sides, or even in the park, the Kirchville area there. Also a good 3 blocks. We have a small footprint, and I feel that this child care center is going to take up a big chunk of that footprint. Not that it's necessarily appropriate, that analogy, but it's like the jail they considered in downtown Detroit, which was overruled because they said for the size of downtown Detroit, that jail is just going to take up too much space. I'm a resident. I live within walking distance. I also happen to work on the Hill. And I can tell you that Rite Aid provided a valuable service to my colleagues, coworkers, and a lot of people who work on the Hill. It was a convenience store. People could go there for beverages, snacks, flu shots even. It was open 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., let's say. And now with the loss of Rite Aid, you have this big empty open space. Ron's door closed recently. You do have some restaurants and establishments, but the hours are very limited. Just for example, brunch hours. I guess the establishment open the longest probably is Flyleaf, for example. So I feel like we need a community hub for our community, something that maintains the vibrance, and I feel that Rite Aid was that community hub. Childcare, I don't think will necessarily provide that community hub that I feel is needed on the hill. Also parking, 35 spaces. I don't know if you realize right now, the second floor is closed and that first floor is crowded every day. I don't know when the gentleman took their latest statistics, but all the overflow has gone into the open space. The Henry Ford office building is under construction. Once that is open, you're gonna have a need for places for community members to go to. I'm absolutely in favor of more childcare in our area. I just don't feel that this is necessarily the appropriate space for that. I know Joanne's Fabrics was acquired, they have such a space, Greenfield attached to it, where you wouldn't have to build, on the third floor, a playground for kids that can't even probably be used in the winter. I admire these gentlemen for their proposal. I've been to London. I'm also guessing that in London, a lot of parents bring their children to these centers on a tube. We unfortunately do not have a tube in our area, i.e. underground metro system. So I don't know. I think there's a lot still to be considered and discussed, and I think it would be important to get more input from people who live nearby, who work there. We need more discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morris. It's your turn, don't worry.
He's here with my daughter Charlotte's enthusiastic support for the early child care center.
We've heard what Charlotte's mom's name, please, and address.
Yeah, my name is Joanna Drever. I live at 1402 Nottingham in Grosse Pointe Park. Good evening.
Good evening.
I have a strong personal interest in the proposed early childhood center at 107 Coachable. I want to begin by thanking the council for grounding land use decisions in the recently adopted master plan. That document makes clear that our shared goal is not simply to preserve Grosse Pointe Farms as it once was, but to ensure it remains a high-quality, livable community for residents at every stage of life. The proposed child care center does exactly that. The master plan explicitly calls for increased housing and service diversity to support families, working professionals, and residents with children, while maintaining neighborhood compatibility. Early child care is not an outlier to that vision. It is a core support system for it. Families cannot choose to live, work, and invest in a community if basic services like childcare are missing or pushed outside city limits. From a land use perspective, this proposal is consistent with the plan's guidance to allow compatible, low-impact community services within commercial corridors, particularly along Kirchville. Where walkability, access, and existing infrastructure already support daily activity. This is precisely the type of use that the master plan envisions when it talks about complete neighborhoods that reduce unnecessary vehicle trips and support local economic vitality. From an economic development standpoint, the plan emphasizes retaining families, attracting working professionals, and strengthening our daytime population. A child care center directly supports all three. It allows parents to remain in the workforce, supports nearby small businesses, and helps stabilize enrollment in our schools, an issue that the plan flags as critical as our population ages. I also want to acknowledge neighbors who may have concerns. Traffic, noise, and compatibility matter. But those are exactly the issues addressed through site plan review, operational conditions, and ongoing oversight, not reasons to dismiss a use that aligns so clearly with our adopted policy framework. The council packet before you reflects that careful procedural approach. At its heart, this is not a zoning question, it is a values question. Do we want Grosse Pointe Farms to remain a place where young families can put down roots, where grandparents can watch their community renew itself, where the master plan is not just aspirational, but actionable? Approving the child care center is a quiet but powerful way to say yes to all of that. I respectfully urge you to support the proposed early child care center. Consistent with the master plan, economic goals, and the shared responsibility to future generations. The concerns are not reasons to vote it down. They're things to figure out. Thank you for your.
Thank you. Ms. Jeever, spell your last name for me, please. Thank you very much for your time and attendance tonight. Your comments are well taken and appreciated, ma'am.
Good evening, council. My name is Elizabeth Johnston. My address is 770 Pemberton. I also go by Bess. I grew up in Grosse Pointe Farms, and in fact, an officer, Jensen, taught me about public safety back in the mid-90s with his son Julie.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm very familiar.
Disregard what you know.
Yes, very important life lessons learned there. I now live in the park and I teach at Brown Middle School. So most importantly though, I am the mother of a 1-year-old daughter named Mark, who is probably terrorizing my husband now. I moved back to Grosse Pointe from London only 2 years ago because this is a community that prides itself on being the best place to raise a family. But lately, for new parents like my husband and I, it does not feel that way. Since Mara was born in December of 2024, my husband and I have been living in a state of childcare uncertainty. We've been on wait lists since the spring, only to be told maybe in the new year, the year's here, have childcare. So, to make it work, my mother-in-law had to fly across the world from New Zealand just so I could return to my classroom at Brownell this past fall. And at present, we are currently surviving on the extraordinary generosity, kindness of dear friends and family. But family stability shouldn't depend on the kindness of others in international flights. Okay. If we want Grosse Pointe to remain a destination for young families, we must evolve. I urge the council, please, to lead on this issue and support the development of child care center in Hill. Let's make sure that Grosse Pointe's family-friendly reputation is backed by offering the services families actually need to thrive. By voting in favor of the Child Care Center on the Hill, you are holding a historic commitment to the next generation of Grosse Pointe. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Johnston, for your comments. They're much appreciated, ma'am.
Good evening. I am Emily Kiggins, Kiggins. I live at 193 Lakeview Avenue. I'm fully in favor of this childcare center happening. I'm grateful to keep it bringing it forward. We desperately need all day childcare for working families. I did not grow up in Grosse Pointe. I moved here with my husband 9 years ago. We lived in Washington, D.C. In D.C., before you even consider having a child, you sign up on a wait list for a daycare center. It is just assumed that both parents will be working parents. When we moved here, it never even occurred to me to think, oh my gosh, is there a place where I can send my kids? I work for Deloitte. I have an amazing maternity leave policy. I get to be home for the first 6 months of my child's life. There is nowhere in Grosse Pointe where you can take a child after that until they're 2.5 years old. And even then, it was a single day pickup at best. So am I supposed to tell my employer I can't do my job because I have to go be a mom? Am I supposed to not be a parent because I want to work and have to work to provide for a family these days? I had never been asked by anyone in my life, oh, do you work? Until I moved to Grosse Pointe. And it was kind of the assumption, I think, this old school mentality of, oh, the dad works, the mom stays at home. And a lot of that is still reflected in a lot of programming and attitudes towards childcare. I was lucky to be able to cobble it together for the first couple months. We employed a full-time nanny. I became a small business owner so that I could pay her on the board for taxes and do everything by the book. It was absolutely insane, the steps that I had to take through to be a working parent. I wish this facility existed 7 years ago when I was looking for a place to bring my daughter when she was first born. My biggest headache of the biggest uncertainty was, what am I going to do with my kids when I have to go back to work? Right now, my youngest is in his last year at Assumption. It's a wonderful program. I absolutely love it. It is the only thing that fit our need, and I have to drive up to St. Clair Shores every day for it. I also had to sleep out overnight in a blizzard to make sure that I was third in line to be able to secure a spot, because my nanny was leaving to start her own family. And I found myself at a really hard place of, oh my gosh, I have to go through this again. When we moved here, everyone said Grosse Pointe is an amazing thing for families. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. But I think there's a caveat once your child is in elementary school.
For the first 5 years, it is really tough to find the community resources you need to fully support that family. And to everyone who's concerned with the use of the hill and the drop-off and pickup, there is nothing more efficient than a drop-off pickup line at a daycare center. I can be in and out in 3 minutes flat at Assumption. Everybody, you've got places to go, you have things to do. For those who are able to linger a little longer, they're gonna pull into the parking lot and go in and get a cup of coffee morning glory. They're gonna schedule that haircut across the street at Salon 76 an hour before pickup so they can just walk on over and get their kids. Once you are with your kids, you're not gonna drive other places. You're gonna pull into the parking lot and go and get lunch or dinner with them at the Hill or any other of the places that are opening. Once you're there, and you're gonna start patronizing and using all of those places more. And I only wish that this had existed 7 years ago. It would be a huge asset to the community. And there are so many other areas around, the east side region, even west side, where I've heard people say, oh, we've considered moving to Grosse Pointe, but we're gonna go look in Birmingham because they have better childcare. So for a place that wants to attract more young families, this just seems like a natural fit. And to everyone who says maybe it's not the right location, for 9 years I've been following messaging boards, and every time a proposal is brought, this citation of, oh, traffic, oh, this, but it keeps getting pushed off. And you can't keep pushing off a need that is so dire in this community. So I fully urge everybody to support it. I only wish I was still having children because I would also be on the registrations. I'm done, but I am here to speak for all the other parents who are coming behind me who really, really need this. So thank you everyone for your consideration.
Ms. Kiggins, thank you for your time and comments. Much appreciated.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kathy Jacobs. I'm from 2025 in Antwerp in Grosse Pointe Woods. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. As a mother to 3, I'm here in support of the proposed daycare because I have experienced firsthand what it means to raise young children in a community that does not have enough licensed care. Specifically for infants, it's until you get to age 2.5, as many people have said, is very much the case here in our area. But specifically for infants, it's terrible where we live. When I had my first child, I began calling daycares at 20 weeks pregnant and was told I was too late. They were already full a year out for children that didn't even exist yet. I moved to Michigan mid-pregnancy with my second and was on wait list at a center where my older son was attending, but didn't know until the last weeks of my maternity leave whether or not I had anywhere to send my son when I went back to work. By the time I was pregnant with my youngest, the first person I told after I told my husband, within minutes of telling my husband, was our daycare provider, because I knew how difficult it was to find space in their center. For years, my family also drove downtown for childcare. It's actually at a facility that these developers built near Detroit Medical Center, because we could not get our infant children into a center here in this community. My husband and I both worked from home. We commuted downtown both ways for 5 years because we could not find a place for our children in our Grosse Pointe communities. And I know, as you've heard, many others have experienced similar things. And when you look at its statistics, it's easy to see why. I think I probably pulled some numbers from a similar site as the developers here. I was looking specifically just at our zip code and not at the radius they had. But we are in a childcare desert. There are more than 3 children for every 1 licensed daycare spot. And actually, there are over 1,000 children between the ages of 0 and 2 within our zip code. There are 162 licensed childcare spots. How are we supposed to go to work? How are we supposed to support our families without access to that care? As one of the other speakers said, the centers that do have care for infants require you to wait outside in the cold, sign up with a $500 deposit on the spot, and it is like the worst version of your old memories of Black Friday that you have ever seen. I've attended one of those. I left in tears and felt like a terrible parent because I wasn't willing to put down a deposit, but my husband couldn't attend because he had the flu. This is just some of the things that parents are dealing with because we don't have adequate childcare in our area. The need for quality licensed childcare is dire, and to turn down an opportunity by a company willing to help meet this need is really a disservice to our community. I know the council and other people here have raised thoughtful concerns about zoning, traffic, and parking, and these are very valid. But problems as dire as this require creative solutions. I also know from 8 years experience that childcare drop-off and pickup usually takes just a few minutes, much less time than it would take to pick a prescription that the former tenants were dealing with day to day. Childcare also strengthens our surrounding area as those parents support local businesses before and after drop off and pickup. And access to childcare helps families choose to move here and stay here, which supports our public schools. The proposed center will not solve the shortage on our own. We need this across our area and multiple other places, but it's a meaningful step in the right direction, and we have a willing participant. It would be a travesty to turn it down. I urge you to support this proposal and to view childcare as the essential infrastructure that it is for the future of our Grosse Pointe communities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobs, very much for coming. Appreciate your comments as well.
I'll go.
Mr. Russell, good evening.
This will be short because I know you've all received my emails, which was just a replay of my memo to you on November 8th, as well as the little video I sent you, I think it was last week, Monday, Tuesday, whatever it was. Just a few points. Love the use. I love the use. I hate the location. That's my biggest issue. I'm the largest landlord on the hill, and this would definitely diminish the value of my property. One of the things that I think was overlooked was the traffic flow. I know there was a slide up here talking about parking as well as traffic flow, showed some arrows and so on and so forth. It didn't show the actual flow as it related to parents dropping off at the Richard Elementary School. So if you couple the arrows going north and the arrows going south, people dropping off their kids at Richard while also trying to go down St. James Way, it's a mess at those choke points. Primarily in the morning. I don't think the afternoon is going to be as bad, but I think it's the morning that's going to be the problem. And again, it's going to affect both McMillan and dramatically Kirchville, because I have the headache of having to manage. Thank you, Hutch and Andy, for helping me in the Richard lot, but I control the Richard lot, and I have a lot of violators that come and drop off their kids in the Richard lot because of the choke points that we have on both McMillan and McKinley. A few other items. Joe Leonard used to have his famous parking map. I don't think any of you were on council then, but Dan, you probably remember his, and he had, for each building, he had the number of parking spots that had been attributed to each building. Rite Aid had approximately 8 employees per shift. Now we're talking, I believe, from the information that the developer provided, I believe it was 27 employees per shift. So my question would be, I didn't hear anything about what they were planning to contribute to the parking fund. I have almost $500,000 that I've invested in hill parking. Very little of it has been deployed for parking enhancement, although recently there have been additions, lighting. I don't know if that part was good, but we want to see enhancements done by the very significant funds that have been charged to landlords for both parking and hill enhancements. That's what I'd like to see, is unlocking that maybe $700,000 that's sitting there. Let's get the brick walk space, let's get the lighting going. Let's do some enhancements that will uplift the area. That's a great location. It's a 10,000 square foot building that has a lot of different opportunities. These are sophisticated developers. There isn't just one tenant that this is a fit for. There are other opportunities. I might have just a couple other, we talked about the exclusive parking. I don't know any other tenant or landlord on the hill that has been granted exclusive parking, especially front row parking, in the MO lot. Now, we have Toast coming into Tony Suave's building. That's going to be a brunch spot. So we're supposed to tell Mr. Suave that he can't have that whole front row until brunch is over. I mean, I think they're talking till 9:30 in the morning, something like that. That's going to be an issue. There's a lot of people that have weathered through the good times and the bad times on the hill, and now to come in and say, okay, we'd like to take this and this and this and kind of cherry pick some of it without any contribution to the parking fund and some of these other issues that we've heard about, I think is wrong. So, I guess just in closing, and I think they did a great presentation. I would be interested in knowing, and it doesn't really matter to me either way, but are the developers co-owners of the operation? Because they spoke very eloquently about the operations of it. And I have properties in 6 states. I don't typically come in representing the tenant. I will come with the tenant. But I thought it was very impressive that they knew so much about the operation. So that would be something that I'd want to know as the city government of who is the operator. Because I haven't seen anyone speak on behalf of the tenant with an English accent tonight. So.
Mr. Russell, thank you for your attendance and your comments, sir. Sir, good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good.
Name and address, please, sir.
Salvatore Vitale. I own Coliseum International Salon and Spa. I've been there 30 years. And I don't know where they got their information on that parking lot. Because I'll come in at 8 o'clock in the morning, my staff comes in at 8 o'clock, they don't leave till 6. And that parking lot is jammed. Also, where they had X up that you're gonna give them, I don't know if you are. But basically what I'm saying is the parking lot is gonna be a mess. Because where they got their information is not correct. A lot of these business people here, like right here, he doesn't start working in the afternoon. He's there all day. And that parking lot is busy all day. I'll leave in the afternoon just to run out to do an errand. I come back and I have to go around 3-4 times to find a parking spot. And exactly what Ed said is what I'm seconding. That's it.
Mr. Vitale, thank you very much.
And I'm sorry for these ladies with daycare and stuff like that, but I don't think it should be there.
Thank you, Mr. Vitale. We appreciate your attendance tonight and your comments and your business on the Hill.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. Margaret O'Connell, 53 Brander Circle. I've lived on Brander Circle for 37 years now. And I've only seen an increase in traffic with more restaurants and businesses. And I would be concerned with this place, with all the students walking, biking. There's a lot of students that use that route to get to South Richard, I just think it would be way too much traffic.
Thank you, Ms. O'Connell. Good evening. Sir, you're up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This is Brett Bizarre. I'm a resident of Grosse Pointe Farms at 25 Winthrop Place, and I'm a business owner on the Hill at 89 Kirchville. I'm a new business owner. We just opened our doors in October. So sorry to have my debut as being a fly anyway, but I do oppose the daycare center. I would sum up this proposal as in the phrase, a great idea, wrong location. I share Mr. Russell's concerns about traffic, and that's my main concern. So we, at 89 Kirchville, we take the entire top floor of that building. I have 15 employees. My employees arrive between 7:30 and 9 every day. They leave between 5 and 6 every day. And there's some unique characteristics of that parking lot that I think make it a particular problem for this type of use, which I would characterize as surge parking. This type of use is not like the Rite Aid, where you have continuous trickle of visitors all day long. This use will come in surges in the morning when everybody else on the hill is arriving to start their business day, and then will surge again at the end of the day when everyone's leaving their offices. And if we display the slide that shows the parking lot, there are some unique things about how the parking lot is laid out that I think increase the problem. I submitted my comments today. I attached a diagram that sort of showed what I think is a public safety issue, a real problem with the traffic flow and with the pedestrian traffic that will be generated by the daycare center and by monopolizing all of the spots along the front of the parking lot. So we all know that to get into the lot, you have to either come down Kirchville from up above, from the east, or come from the west. And then there's only one way in, and so you will have people turning left onto McMillan along with all of the people turning right at 72 vehicles per hour, plus the traffic from Richard, plus the traffic from my office and all the other businesses on the hill. Because there is no parking, there's very limited parking on the other side of Kirchville. So everybody has to park in the lot in question. And so when you come into St. James Way, the unique thing about the lot that doesn't make it suitable for this type of surge parking is that you have to enter up through the second lane over, is the only way to go up into the lot. And then to park in these prime front spots that N family is proposing, you'd have to pull into those spots, then walk across St. James Way, which will be busier than ever with traffic going through the morning, and bringing kids across St. James Way. So the parking lot is particularly ill-suited for bringing children across because it's not next to the building, it's across a busy road. But the problem then is that somebody drops off their child and then gets into their car and they now have to back out against this surge of traffic is coming in. So you will have multiple cars in those 25 slots trying to back out into traffic that's circulating through the lot. That, in my view, creates not only a huge traffic jam issue, also issues with parents with their kids walking behind the cars that are backing out. Just today, just an anecdotal bit, I was leaving my office tonight at 6 p.m. It was 35 degrees. Not a typical day for riding my kids. But as I was pulling out onto Muir Road, 3 kids on bikes shot across the front of my truck. I had to slam on the brakes and turn right. And that's not a warm summer evening. That's an unusual occurrence, but maybe that's what surprised me so much. Another thing I'd point out to the council is that I don't think I've ever walked across St. James Way and not seen delivery trucks or FedEx trucks or UPS trucks stopping and dropping off either produce or picking up in the afternoon, picking up catering for the businesses. And that adds another layer of potential pedestrian vehicle interaction. And I think we all know trucks and kids don't mix. That's my main concern. I set out in my letter today, I can tell the council that my firm looked at a lot of properties. We looked at a lot of places in Troy, Bluefield Hills, Grosse Pointe, St. Clair Shores. And we chose the spot on the hill because of the character of the hill, because of the walkability, because we had dining and retail options. And importantly, to my people, many of whom commute very long distances, they come down Kirchville, they turn into onto McMillan, and they park their car and be in the office in 5 minutes. That commute will be lengthened by 20 to 30 minutes if this proposal is allowed to go through. A couple of other things I pointed out in my letter is the conflict of the proposal with the master plan and the plan to have the hill as a vibrant walking district full of shops and restaurants. As we all know, when you drive into the hill on your right, you have that sort of what I would call the dead zone from Henry Ford, which is just a wall of windows. There's no pedestrians, no nothing there. Then you have Bronze Door, and then if this proposal goes through, you will have another wall of windows with no ingress. So you're essentially going to take a quarter of the hill and render it not dining, not retail, no pedestrian traffic. And that, I believe, conflicts with the master plan. I do also have concerns about the fact that the hill is now a social district and that this would be a daycare place right between 2 bars and with open alcohol available out on the patios and everything else. I think that's sort of inconsistent with how we want what we want our kids exposed to. I also included some questions about the data that N Family put in their proposal. I think we just heard from one speaker that there was a 3-to-1 ratio potentially. We've heard over a 10-to-1 ratio. I do think the council deserves some backup data for the claims that N Family is making about the ratio in their application. And they're a pretty sophisticated outfit. I think they should be able to provide that data. As far as any kind of hardship or the unavailability of other places, all we've heard from the developers so far is that they put a call into Tromley and didn't get any response. I'd like to hear more, and I think the council should hear more about efforts to try to implement this very good idea and this very nice mixed curriculum daycare use in other locations where there's parking adjacent to the building. People don't have to go across an alleyway or across Kirchable to get to their office on the other side. So I'd like to hear some more about what alternatives they're trying to explore to see if they can take this nice idea and put it in a better place in our community. I understand completely the need for daycare in this community and appreciate N Family's efforts to address that need. I just think this location just doesn't work for us.
Mr. Frazard, thank you for your time, for your public comments, and for your 7-page letter that you sent to us earlier this week. It's appreciated. Thank you, sir. Good evening. Hi.
Christina Agnello. I live at 373 Curb, Florence. Good evening, council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'd like to encourage the city to consider allowing the retail space on Birchable to become a daycare center. 7 years ago, when I found out I was pregnant with my now beautiful daughter, I thought my husband and I would get the luxury of choosing faith-based daycare or Montessori or maybe a secular curriculum. And we got no luxury to decide because the first thing everybody in our community said is, congratulations, where are you sending her? You have to get a spot now. We didn't even know it was a girl yet. And we had to sign her up for daycare. So my husband picked Grateful Dead song names to name our baby on the application because we didn't know. We had an Ophelia, a Magnolia file. We shopped around because we had to get in. And finally, we got a spot somewhere, a wait list spot at Giving Tree, which is in Detroit. My husband and I are both public school teachers. We need hours and times that are commensurate with our schedule. We finally got a spot on a wait list, and then we lost it to an already existing family who had a younger sibling. So we had to beg, borrow, and steal childcare from an honorable member of this council. We poached a nanny. Yeah. He was done with her. Yes. And we arranged childcare in our home. Again, I'm a public school teacher. I worked for an entire 2 years just for healthcare. My salary went to a nanny so I could stay in this community. And that's what my husband and I had to look at. Do we want to move so that we can find somewhere to provide care for our child? And that was not the entire conversation when we addressed having another child, but it was a big part of it. And I'll tell you, I have a beautiful only daughter because I couldn't afford an auntie again. I want to stay in this community. I love this community. This community is doing wonderful things by adding to the aquatic center and really supporting families and swim team and Little League and community development. But we got to keep young people here. Otherwise, the pool's not going to matter. And the Little League wins aren't going to matter if young families aren't coming in. So I would say I appreciate that all the comments respecting additional research and further concerns support this as a need. And I think we can all acknowledge that. And I would just say, if not there, where? And if not now, when? Time's passing, there's a spot, there's a plan, and there's families who will come and fill those spots. I thank you for your time tonight, and thank you for considering this.
Mr. Agnello, thank you for your comments. We appreciate you and for educating our kids. Ms. Jacobs.
Good evening, everyone. I point out I've not related to the previous speaker. It's happening back there on Facebook.
Good evening, everyone. First up, a few.
You gotta give your name and address.
Oh, I'm
Yes, please.
Christine Jacobs. I live at 176 Moran Road, Ingersoll Farms. First of all, I wanted to address some practical matters, and I think I was gonna go to moving to like the loftier, pull on the heartstrings matters. First off, as far as a practical matter, this is a location that has a very large parking lot. It has street parking in front of it that's metered. There's also a very large 4-story, if not five, 4-story parking structure adjacent. There are 2 parking structures, to my knowledge, in all the Grosse Pointes and Harper Woods. That right there, I just want to say a practical matter, seems to me adequate parking, as the developer pointed out, there seems to be. As far as traffic itself, I think it does be reiterated that daycare drop-off is very different than elementary school drop-off. People, if they're opening at 6:30 in the morning and doing as late as 6 p.m., you're gonna have not a concentrated flow the way you do for the 15, 20 mayhem minutes that happen at the public elementary school adjacent to this potential development. I'd also say too, I know that there's concern about there being children here in this location. The children are on the hill, guys. We as parents take them across that very scary alley that everyone keeps talking about. We manage to navigate them around the trucks. They go to those restaurants, those bars that are being calcinated right now. Those are restaurants where children go every day. And they sit outside and they see the people having a drink or two. They're with their parents. That's going to continue. In fact, I imagine parents and families will probably go there even more because they're already going to be there. Hopefully, even if they are as well as the other early childhood offerings that it seems like the provider wants to do. As far as like the pulling on the heartstrings matter, I just wanted to say, I think the most often question I want to pose to you is, and I think my previous speaker said this, if not this location, where, and if not now, when? That 50 times demand ratio is honestly a shame on all of us, this entire community. That is shocking. Actually, that really shocks me. Daycare on the, and I'm talking the east side, is a problem. It really is. And everyone here, I know we all wish we had the amenities that are Oakland County. We want the vibrancy of Oakland County. We want the economic climate of Oakland County. They offer these sort of services and places in Oakland County. If we don't open this, I guarantee you these folks are going to go to Oakland County. And it's going to be another nice thing that's in Birmingham that we don't have here in Grosse Pointe and everyone wishes we did. So I really, really urge you. I really want you to think and to actually interrogate that within you. Do we want to say no to this honestly gift that really came out of nowhere, this unbelievable, high quality, international, global, top tier daycare and childcare facility? To me, it's unconscionable. And I really ask all of you to really interrogate that in you. And then lastly too, I want you to reflect, and I know you guys all take your roles here very seriously, but to me, this is maybe one of the most important votes you're gonna make. This is truly sends a message about the community we want to be. Actually, the sort of place Grosse Pointe wants to be is a center of economic and social learning environments for the east side of Detroit. This is actually an opportunity for more than just Grosse Pointe. You heard a lot of mothers here who are not Farms residents. Everyone across Grosse Pointe, Harper Woods, the east side is gonna come here. And there are a lot of folks who work on the Hill that live in Macomb County, Oakland County. They will bring their babies and their children just here to use this facility. So I ask for you to think more expansively of that. And lastly, another thing I'd like you to keep in mind, I actually see this neighborhood becoming something truly unique in the Metro Detroit region. If you look at the facilities, the anchor institutions that are in this neighborhood, we have one of the most prestigious high schools in the state. We have an elder care facility. We have the Henry Ford healthcare facility. We have an elementary school. We have a world-class public library. We have senior citizen center. We actually could create an actual true cradle to actually senior living community and neighborhood that I think would be unlike anything you're going to see in Metro Detroit. So I just think I would really urge you all to think very carefully
And I would hate for this to be lost on just some parking standards. And I know you guys, you can figure it out at every trust in all of you. So thank you very much.
Ms. Jacobs, thank you very much for your attendance and your comments. We appreciate it. Mr. Lalonde, good evening, sir.
Thank you. My name is Daniel Lalonde. I live at 25 Windermere. That my wife and I, Cynthia, own Lalonde Jewelers on the hill, 4 doors down from Rite Aid. I would like to know why no one has mentioned what is good for the kids. Whose idea to put them smack dab in the middle of a business district with a busy Kirchville Avenue and a busy delivery alley on either side? Whatever happened to trees and swing sets and natural grass? This is not London. It's not New York City. There's plenty of room. This is the wrong spot for it, I believe. When my wife and I purchased the jewelry store and purchased the two parcels of land, 91 and 93 Kirchville, next door was Sylvan Learning Center. That was a similar operation to little older children, but they had a maximum of 70 students. We've been told that this would bring an influx of business to the area. In 7 years, not one parent ever came in and bought anything at Lalonde Jewelers from the Sylvan Learning Center, picking up their kids. There was congestion in the alleyway. There was less parking out front. That was only 70 students. Now we're going to 179 students. A lot of these people, I'm sure they're all married couples. They all have their diamond rings. They all know jewelers. There could be out of the 179, maybe 15 are clients of mine already. They're going to come in and see me on their free time, not when they're dropping off their kids. The other ones are not going to drop their jeweler and say, I'm going to go to Lalonde because he's next door to where my kid goes to school. They're not going to drop their hairdresser and go to Salon 76 because it's in the neighborhood. They're going to stick with their own. This is not going to bring in it. Occasionally, it could bring some business, but the business it is going to drive away. My clientele will tell me all the time, I'm not coming there because it's too busy at that time. I'm not coming in. You got to come in and see something. I'm not coming in because, so I can see the need for this daycare center. It's a big need, and I can hear what these gals are saying. But it's the wrong spot. There's plenty of room, there's plenty of places. I believe it's the wrong spot.
Mr. Lalonde, thank you, Mr. Lalonde, for your comments and your business in Grosse Pointe Farms. We appreciate it. Any other public comment, please? Mr. Durbin.
Here, 6:30. Everybody's made significant comments. One of the things that I was over on the parking lot past Monday, and I noticed there were cars actually coming down the alley the wrong way. I commented to Hutch about it, and it was scary because I was actually in the parking lot. They were turned left, 2 cars came roaring in on the garage, turning right, zipping down the alley. Whoa, wait a second, guys, what's going on here? So they won't even pay attention to this, hey, it's a left-hand turn. So now we have all this extra traffic. And I think there's real concerns about this traffic flow. It's silly. Also, I'm confused. The 12 spot, the 24 spot, they show these 2 different green and yellow. How many spots are they asking for? I'm not sure.
Approximately 12 to 24, depending on the time. We'll get further clarification. but I think it's 12 permanent, 24 until 9:30 a.m.
That's good. You know, how about in the afternoon? What's the situation in the afternoon now?
Free, uh, come as you are. Whatever's available.
That's a community dance.
No, sir.
Be fighting for spots for the kids there. A lot of questions I think we need to answer that acting as well this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Durbin. Is there any further public comment? Good evening.
My name is Patty Blazer. I own Blazer Design Group at 110 Birchville, which is directly across the street from Rite Aid. I only hear a little bit about this through the Hill Association, and I don't have the time to necessarily sit there and listen to what they're saying, but I did review the packet that was sent thoroughly. I just have a few comments about this. I know that you guys are really invested in this town, and so are these moms, and I get that. Thank God I didn't have that issue, and I can only imagine how hard it is to find some place where you can trust a place to put your kids. However, after living through the construction of Flyleaf, because my alley goes through there, and knowing how hard it was for them to build that building over a 2-year period, and I'm glad it's there, don't get me wrong, but it was a struggle, as well as for the contractors. I mean, where are they supposed to go? And I look at this and I think, okay, well, you've got this nice parking lot in the back. I don't know what their staging areas looks to need to be. And how long this process is going to take for them to be able to build this building to that. I don't know what year they plan that. And I don't know whether or not they own the building or they're just leasing the building. I mean, I know how much it costs for me to lease that building, let alone what they would have to pay and do all the improvements that they're going to do. I agree that traffic and parking is an issue. You know, you guys have approved the restaurants, 4 or 5 of them, they take more parking spaces. That only hurts me. And my clients, I see them parking way down by, you know, Morning Glory and trying to get in. And then when the trucking lane in front of Ed's building was taken away to add more parking spaces to accommodate for that, then my 53-foot trucks can't, they're sitting in the middle of the road. They can't come down the alley because the wires are too low. They can't get out at the end. So I just have some issues. I mean, I've been here for 23 years at this point. So as much as you want these businesses to succeed, and I appreciate the fact that you're doing that, there's just a lot going on. And I would invite any of you at any time, come and sit in my showroom. You can sit there all day and watch the people coming and going. We now have a walkway for adults or for kids or whatever to go across. I see people whipping through that all day long. They don't care. It's not lit up well. You know, you have to get out front of the cars to get by. There's just issues there that they're just there. So I agree that this would be great for Grosse Pointe. However, I think we do need a creative solution for this. I again agree that this is not the location, in my opinion, for this to take place. Is there anything wrong with 7 and Matt, Joanne's? I mean, have they looked at other buildings? Are there building lots that they could own? I mean, and I know nothing about this company. I'm sure they're great, but I just don't see it being there. I've been looking at this building for 3 years since it's been gone. It's so sad. Not that their building is going to be any better, it might look a little better, but it's still not going to bring anything to help our community from a business standpoint. I just wish they could go somewhere else. Joanne's, and I don't want them to go up. I mean, I barely get enough light over the Rite Aid building. They're going to go up another story. And I feel bad for the people on Radnor that, you know, when everybody just keeps going up, they never get any light in their backyard. And here we go. We're just going to have this huge building with no light getting back onto Birchville. So anyway, I just want to tell you, good idea, not right location. Thank you so much for listening and come and sit in my show.
Ms. Blazer, thank you very much for your business, for your time and your comments. Sir, hi, good evening. How are you?
Great, Shelton Profile, 135 Town Court. Just wanted to voice my opinion. I think it's really a good news, bad news scenario right here.
The good news is there's a high demand, and, to me, that just says they're gonna find a way to make this happen somewhere. And I would agree with that, it could be somewhere that should not be in the hill. I know when Froms went out in the village, they split that up very nicely. They marketed it. There's a lot of great stores in there that enhance the village capabilities. I think something like that would be a better use. I don't see why you would grant an exception for something where there's such demand and you can find another spot in the Grosse Pointe Farms area. So, again, great concept, good idea, probably very good people. I just don't think it's the right spot.
Mr. Wardwell, good evening. Thank you, sir. Good to see you. Anyone else? With that, we'll close public comment. Thank you all very much. I neglected to add before we get into comments of council for members of city council that Ms. Amanda Marler of 1352 Maryland Street sent us correspondence and support. Bear with me, please. As did Ms. Jean Bean of 828 Pemberton in Grosse Pointe Park. Ms. Catherine Jordan of 284 Stevens in Grosse Pointe Farms wrote some questions to us. And finally, Ms. Rosalia Stefantos Knapp of 232 McKinley wrote us as well in support. I'm going to take the unusual move and go first extremely briefly with regard to my comments. I am one of those individuals with 4 kids who drove back and forth downtown to the Renaissance Center for Childcare very early on. I think this has been an extremely, extremely good presentation by members of 8. I appreciate you coming back 3 times. I also went to the Hill Association meeting. I was invited to attend that, where Mr. Egan presented to them as well. I heard the comments there. I've heard from several people on the phone. I can tell you, and there's no doubt that there's a need for this. Here's my problem. And this is likely going to influence my vote. It will influence my vote. We have not had the benefit of any representative of the owner of N Family School here. That is extremely unusual. I think it's unheard of. To me, it's fatal. Mr. Russell indicated who's the owner. I want to know who the owner of the building is, quite frankly. I want to be able to look them in the eye and ask them some questions. I want to see what their plan is. Mr. Egan had previously said, well, if this fails, we'll find another tenant for the building. That doesn't work. I agree. Maybe we can do it somewhere else or something along those lines. But the inability of them to be here either by Zoom or to have submitted a written letter or to appeared at that podium. I understand that they're in the United Kingdom. They should have been here if that's their first foray or venture into early education in the United States. Those are my comments. I am very appreciative of the time. I will now start on my right this time with Councilmember Wood. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Harry. Mayor Lilly, I do have several comments. First, I'd like to say thank you very much to the residents who came. Very few times in my 14 years that I've been up here have I seen any situations where there's been more involvement and comments and thoughtful people coming here. I think the last time that we had such a outpouring of support or concern was the tennis house years ago. Tennis house that we were thinking about redeveloping. So this is unique for us tonight, and I want to extend my appreciation to all of you who have come out here and taken your time to give us your opinions. I have some grave concerns about this proposal myself, and I've got several questions that I'll put as kind of statements of my concerns. And then Mr. Egan and his colleague can come up and address if you care to. But these are my concerns for denying this petition. An early education daycare center is contrary to the intended character of the Hill District and is incompatible with the goals of a diversified retail and dining establishment. We've already talked about this. A couple of people have said that tonight. I'm very concerned about that. The land use is inconsistent with the city's master plan. Somebody else mentioned that tonight as well, and is not an approved land use. That is to say that if we were to pass this tonight, this preliminary site plan, we'd have to do a use variance. And I'm very concerned that we would be able to pass that because that's a very, very strict, situation. I have problems with parking as have been discussed, and collisions and conflicts in the MO lot created by parents coming and going from that MO lot. Pedestrian safety is very, very important. In particular, for parents and children while they're walking through the MO lot, as it has been discussed and shown on the drawing, through the MO lot and crossing St. James Way. I'm even more discouraged to hear from Andy that folks are driving the wrong way on St. James, which makes it even more problematic. There's a possible adverse traffic flow and vehicle turning movements onto McMillan Street off of Kercheval. We do not have a formal traffic study, an engineering study. An engineer would be very helpful in this particular case. We have been given assurances. That's fine. We've been given assurances from one side. We've been given assurances from the other side. I need, in order to make a good judgment here, a third-party engineering study to study the turning movements at that particular intersection, and then also study the traffic flow as has already been discussed in the MO lot itself. So I'm concerned that we do not have a traffic study. There are unanswered questions. We do not have a letter from the Liquor Control Commission. This was brought up in our previous meeting. We do not have a letter indicating that they're not supporting this, or this doesn't, that this land use isn't included. We don't have anything from LCC except from assurances from the petitioner. We have unanswered questions regarding the location of the facility within 500 feet of establishments serving alcohol. I'm concerned that one of the proposals might be to have some of our police officers out there in the mornings and the afternoons to conduct safety and making sure that pedestrians and everybody, there's going to be problems with that. I think that's a use of government resources that we can't afford right now. I don't think that we should rely on our public safety department to enforce parking and also public safety. As far as I know, and as far as we know, I haven't seen one in our packet. There's no agreement that exists between the applicant and Henry Ford, indicating that they will have the ability contractually to use that parking structure. So I'm not sure what that is all about. Despite the applicant's goodwill and persuasive arguments, there is a lack of a traffic study. And I need to know about turning movements, as I've said before. And finally, there is no written agreement between the city and the applicant regarding parking on the MO lot. So those are my concerns. Also, with respect to the use variance, which we haven't talked about, but I will say it will be extremely difficult for me to vote for a use variance, given the uses that this particular property can be put to use for. So those are my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Wood. Councilmember Conrad Wilberding, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank everyone that's participated tonight in public comments. And I also want to, thank the people that are trying to propose this. I said early on in a previous meeting that this is an emotional issue. When you're talking about your children, you have nothing but emotions. Is it a moral issue on whether we say yes or no? If we say no, is that immoral? I hope not. I hope that's not the thinking here. Because what would be really irresponsible, maybe not immoral, but irresponsible, is if any of these different kids, because of these traffic congestions or problems, got hit. If anyone got hit, and we did not do the right type of due diligence to take a look. at some of these traffic patterns. I was just on the Hill this last Tuesday, and I had to go on the backside to get coffee, as many of you have with, since their front is being redone. There are a number of delivery trucks that I saw. Also, what the gentleman before had just talked about as far as the routing to get into our parking lot in the back is something that really hasn't been measured. And I think you really have to take a look at that, how you have to go in the back. There are a number of different situations where it's just so close in this proximity in this parking lot. And so you have to take a look at that. I am a big proponent of really hearing from our community. I think the last time that we had more people turn out was practically for the pool in our public hearings. There's twice as many of you for that. So I also think we had a lot of people that turned out for our master plan. And that master plan echoed emphatically the need to build up the Hill as a retail entertainment section. It was vocalized a number of different times. Do we have any type of voicing for a child care center? Well, we should. I've been a working mother all my life. I've been a working mother with 2 kids. I worked when I was pregnant with both. I worked with all of them. They're now, thankfully, much older. But I have to tell you something. Childcare was just astronomical then, impossible to get. And I would beg, borrow, steal for something like this, but not in this location. Do I think it's immoral if we don't say yes to put it in that location? Absolutely not. Some of my different questions, again, as my colleague Lev Wood has said, I refer to these as comments and they can be questions that can be answered at a later date. Twombly School. Who did you really talk to? If you had this much emotion and if you had this much enthusiasm for a daycare center, I'd like to know if that person returned your call or who that was. There is a new daycare center going on in Alter and Kercheval. How did that happen? When will that be open? Are there different things, lessons we can learn from that? There doesn't seem to be some traffic problems there. There doesn't seem to see some of these inherent problems that are with this. And that'll be very much needed. The low impact traffic analysis. When you talked about Henry Ford, Pearson Clinic is going to be opening after what? Too long, maybe 3-4 years. Believe me, I go to the Pearson Clinic. That's where my primary care physician is, as well as with some other different people. I really do believe that parking is going to increase. It truly is going to increase. So with the traffic patterns, with the alternatives, meaning Twombly School 1, with the Hill Associates, I'd like to see a letter confirming your type of relationship, working relationship. I want to see that in writing. As far as the there's one I echoed saying we can all get through these minor issues. These are not minor issues. These are not these are major issues, not minor issues. I want that daycare center. I beg you to please look at stay with us in our community, but look at some of the locations in earnest. In earnest. Not a simple way that you think that this is going to be passed over with a yes vote without a lot of scrutinization. Because for the safety, and I'm telling you, in that back part, that is a safety concern. Finally, I agree with our mayor. Never have I been on this council, and now it's been more than 7 years, where we have not heard from the owner of some type of proprietor or project director come and talk to us directly. We need to have the people from the school. Before you go any further, in my opinion, for those different issues, I am very reluctant, regrettably, to vote in favor of this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Ritchie, please.
Just a couple of comments. I don't think the tenant being here would make a difference tonight or in the future. This is a real conundrum. I think I'm saying it right.
You are.
Conundrum.
Thank you.
We need 3 of these. All right. based on those numbers, but not at this location. So all I can say is that I would love to see it. I think I should be in the childcare business instead of the car business. But this is not the location. So anything we want to do to go forward in other areas, I'm behind it 100%. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sierra Donovan, please.
I just have a few comments as well. First, I appreciate all the mothers that came forth and spoke so passionately. I understand. We do need this. I appreciate all the business owners that came forth and spoke passionately too. I participated in the master plan project, and it was very well attended, and it was a lot of fun. And when we looked at the final draft and then we adopted it in December of 2023, I put on the record then that as far as council, the council table, I would use that document as my Bible. And we know that there's really only one Bible. I do take what I do here very seriously, and I listen and I do research. And if you were to look at my document, you would see all my notes. You would see City Manager Shane Reed's name with question marks, and Lab when it comes to, or Councilman Labwood when it comes to variances, you would see his name with question marks. I marked this document up so that I could understand and make sound decisions. Again, I cannot support it simply because of the location. And I want to read this. Page 80 from the master plan. The Hill Commercial. The intent of the Hill Commercial District, which is concentrated along the corridor on Kirchhoff between Fisher and Muir, is to promote more business uses that better serve the desires of residents in the nearby neighborhoods. The district supports a variety of services from local restaurants to national pharmacy chains to a range of office uses. It is seen as the city's hub for commercial activity. However, public input has indicated that there is a strong desire for the Hill to become a hub for retail and pedestrian activity. The Hill has several unique characteristics that offer opportunities to enhance this valuable community asset. And we've heard the word vibrant. And we want it to stay vibrant. And no one is saying that we don't want childcare, daycare, early childhood care. We know that that is a need, but we have to be wise. And I can't support something like this being on the Hill, our business district. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Soroka, please.
Yeah, so as my understanding, this is primarily the point where we would ask questions of the applicant. It's a little confusing to me. We're asking for preliminary site plan review, and then there would be a final site plan review that would happen later if a preliminary site plan review were to go forward.
That's accurate.
I do have a question as to whether or not the applicant, given the tenor of much of this discussion at this dais, might want to withdraw for more information to be gathered at a later point. Although, also given some of the questions, I'm not sure how worthwhile that would necessarily be. In terms of questions, I'll start with this and then I'll proceed to some general comments about this. Number one, in terms of questions, I just wanted to briefly share that, like several of my colleagues, I received a video from Mr. Russell about traffic on the Hill, and that prompted me to spend some of my own time this past Thursday observing traffic and parking conditions around McMillan and Kirchhoff and the Hill. I was there specifically, as was mentioned, the concern about the early morning drop-off. So I spent time there from 7:55 to about 8:30 p.m. I also drove through the parking lot that same day at around 5 o'clock just to see what that was like in the afternoon. What I saw helped clarify some things to me. Number one, as Mr. Russell shared, the video that he shared with us was taken right around that 3:35 dismissal time at Richard. And as has been talked about pretty significantly, daycare pickup in the afternoon. Daycare doesn't really operate in the same way, spread over a much longer period of time, typically takes place a lot later in the afternoon. And based on what I observed from my own experience, there doesn't seem to be much meaningful overlap in the afternoon. As far as the morning is concerned, I did see a brief uptick in activity right before that 8:20 bell that rings. But it was short-lived and resolved relatively quickly. By about 8:30, traffic had normalized, which made me think that even though concerns about traffic are reasonable in theory, they may be overstated when we look at how these facilities actually function. And so in addition to a request, if they were to come back to our council for a traffic study, I would be interested in an abundance of caution. Would they be willing to consider a moratorium on arrivals during particular periods of time where we know there might be additional traffic at Richard? So just for example, between 8 o'clock and 8:30, no admissions to my site, no admissions to and that would ensure that any traffic that might theoretically arise would be taken care of. At the same time, I think any of us who lives here in Grosse Pointe Farms knows there are certain times, for instance, that you don't go to farms market because you don't want to get that traffic during lunch. I think the same would be true, frankly, with most parents at drop off in the morning. They would avoid assiduously that 8:20 period that picks up around Richard. As do, frankly, I'd imagine most of the people that might be working out of offices. The second question, so that was one question. Would they be willing to consider possible restrictions on specific, very fine-tuned arrival times? The second question related to zone, and we've heard some concerns about whether the daycare is appropriate in the B1 district. What's important context for me is that, as far as I understood in previous conversations, basically the only place that a daycare would be permitted right now is in the community service district or zone. And all of those zones, as far as I understand, are occupied right now by schools, by churches, and in some cases reserved for future municipal use. So in practical terms, if we do not allow for childcare in B1 districts, it is very hard to imagine how a daycare would ever open in Grosse Pointe Farms. And so given that reality, and we heard the questions here, have you explored other options? The truth is there aren't any good options. And oh, by the way, the Joann's fabric, we actually, even as a city, cannot offer that as an option to a facility because we owe money to the folks we purchased that office space from. In terms of actual comments about the actual daycare in just a general sense. First, I think it's clear, since my wife also spoke, I want to be very clear that while this is an issue that both of us care deeply about from our own personal experience, neither of us have a stake in this proposal whatsoever. I have no relationship with the developer or the provider. And I say that because I saw some very strange comments online over the last couple of days that suggested one of us worked for the company or the developer or something. And I just want to be clear that isn't true at all. And like pretty much everyone else on this dais, I suspect I don't have children that would use this daycare, barring a very large surprise that I will need to discuss with Christine. So frankly, if this vote were held today, and I don't suspect it will, or I hope it won't, I would be voting in support of it because I believe there's a clear and pressing need. I won't go over. There was a question about the ratios that were discussed. The truth is that there's a range of different ways to calculate need. At the very least, what we do know is that Michigan State University's child care mapping study identifies the Points and Harper Woods and all of these surrounding zip codes as child care deserts, which means that there are more than 3 children for each competing child care spot. And even that, frankly, likely underestimates the problem because it assumes that every slot is open. And it doesn't reflect the near total lack of infant care in the area, something that was brought up by numerous people here. The reality is you might have a spot if you're at 2.5 or 3, but if you're an infant, you've got nothing, and you've got to drive either downtown or way up north, as I did, 13 mile. So this isn't theoretical. It's one of the reasons why young families struggle to come here and why, frankly, you commute with communities on the west side that have more options. It's not a problem, and frankly, it's not a problem that's going to be solved overnight. It's not going to be solved by one facility. It's not going to be solved by 2 facilities if N Family and the one down in Alter, which has been in development for the last many years, comes to fruition. But when opportunities do arise, they are exceedingly rare. I believe we have an obligation to take them seriously. And we've heard concerns about parking, traffic, and zoning. I think those concerns are reasonable to raise, but having looked closely at the facts, having spent time on the ground, having reviewed the materials, those concerns to me are far less persuasive than the need this proposal is trying to meet. Zoning and master plans are important. We spend a lot of time, we talk with the public about them, but at the end of the day, they are guidance. They are tools to help us serve the community. They should not be barriers that prevent us from responding to the very real world needs of citizens in this community and citizens of tomorrow. This is exactly why exceptions exist, and it is why we should work to figure out how to make those exceptions happen. I also think that we should be honest about the alternative. If we say no to this child care facility, we're not preserving something sacred. We're likely just opening the door to another commercial use that may or may not meet a urgent community need. There was a rumor I heard amongst some folks that there was a video golf facility that was looking to take over the Rite Aid. And man, would it be a shame to say no to childcare for video golf? For me, this is about responsibility, not just to the people who are here tonight, to the folks that spoke up on all sides of this issue, but to the families we want in this community in the future. Allowing this plan to proceed is not reckless. Frankly, it's the furthest thing from it. It is thoughtful, it is a values-driven, and frankly, it's a market-oriented response to what is a real crisis in the community. There are no other options. As I understand it, the applicant has talked directly with the school, superintendent with regards to Trombley. That's not happening. There's reasons why Trombley hasn't worked as a daycare for many years in the past. We'll see if that changes in the future, but there's no interest in selling to or leasing out a long-term lease to someone. So the truth is there aren't easy options here. If we say no, we're likely saying no for a very long time. In my time in this community, I think there have been maybe 3 conversations about daycares opening in this community. And the last time it happened in the park, it was said no to because why? Parking and traffic. The question for me is whether families in this community, young people in this community, and children in the community are worth more than the parking and traffic problems that may come occasionally with them.
Thank you very much, sir. Councilmember Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too would like to thank everyone who showed up tonight. I raised 3 children in this community in the last 44 years. I'm currently assisting raising 5 more. I understand it's difficult to get childcare help. We were blessed. We had a couple of in-laws that would help, and grandma and grandpa help out all the time. That's what we do. That's what I do. Didn't retire to do that, but that's what I'm doing. And I thoroughly enjoy it, but everybody's got different circumstances. So I understand how hard it is to get daycare, proper daycare, especially for the real young ones. That being said, there's no doubt that there's a need for this. No one could argue that there's not a need for this. But as most of you know, my forte is public safety. And this is a logistical nightmare as far as I'm concerned. If you look at the traffic flow, all traffic exiting from the parking structure, the parking lot, and all the one-way traffic utilizing, I call it the alley, but St. James Way, including delivery trucks, FedEx, UPS, and USPS, lots of traffic constantly going down that alley. When utilizing the parking structure, first floor parkers, pedestrians, have to cross the alley to enter the first floor of the Pearson Clinic, as mom and kids would have to enter there. All this, we're feeding all this traffic into an alley. Granted, some of it's past where the kids would cross, some of it, but all those hospital people, I'm surprised Henry Ford isn't here voicing some concerns for the clinic, because they have to cross that street right there, and it's terrible. So I just, when they utilize the MO lot, are the parents going to use the kiosks if they're going to be a little bit longer, 10, 15, 20 minutes, half hour to meet with a teacher regarding something that happened? No, we're not going to do that. It's hard for the police right now, public safety, to assign a car to patrol this alley, because unlike most of the other school districts, I believe the Farms has the most school zones of all the points to patrol. 6 school zones. So The priority has always been and continues to be patrolling those school zones. It's hard to break a cop off to watch the alley thing. Are there cars going the wrong way? Yeah, I think that's due a lot though because of the construction projects. Some of the signs, we can replace those. You're still gonna get a knucklehead or two that'll drive down there, but it's not that bad. What's gonna happen is parents are gonna be running late for whatever reason. They're not gonna go into the parking lot. They're gonna pull up by that school, throw the four-ways on, grab the little child and run into the building and you know what's gonna happen. There's gonna be a delivery truck coming and it's gonna get boxed in there and next we're gonna have blowing horns at people. It's gonna happen a lot because parents might say, you know what, this isn't really safe crossing this alley with all this traffic with my child to get to the daycare. To me, it's way too busy of an alley now, and we're really gonna add the traffic when the Pearson Clinic opens up full boat. We got a delicatessen that's gonna open up on the hill that we forget about. That's gonna require more parking. That parking lot is not that large. In fact, at Christmas time, you can't get a spot there at the time at all. So we circle it like the Indians around Custer. You just keep circling until you can find a spot. Or the double park on Kirchville, which we've seen when they were going into institutions at Rite Aid, they would pull in and double park and throw the flashes on and then they go. It's really gonna be a minute, which is usually not the case. Most of this has already been addressed. Pickup time is during happy hour, or at least 4 or 5 bar restaurants in the now part of the social district, wide open, walking, drinking. And the morning shift that didn't appear to be too much of a problem, that's gonna be a problem now because we're having a new brunch place open. So the cars that weren't gonna be there now are gonna be there for brunch. So both of those times are gonna be peak times. I have a hard time putting a daycare in a social district, back and forth, bars, and it just doesn't make sense to me. And the other thing is, I had a discussion a while back with Tony Suave. He was considering putting a third floor on the roof, put a roof bar up there. And it got to be costly for a couple of reasons, but one was you put something up on the roof, play area, whatever, you can't use it in the wintertime. You can't use it when it's raining. If it's really windy, you don't want to be up there either if it's windy and cool. In the summertime, you're taking kids up to a furnace. It is hot up on there. If you've ever had a meeting at the Pearson Clinic on the outdoor patios there, which we've had several Hill Association meetings there, it's blazing hot. So come on, kids, let's go up there and catch some rays. It's not, that's not my problem. It's not my building. It's not, I don't know how we're gonna do that. Other than that.
How about this?
That's a great idea.
How about this, Mr. Jensen?
Let's shade.
Thank you for your comments.
Blow off the roof.
Mr. Jensen, does that conclude?
Concerns.
We appreciate your comments as always. Council member, gentlemen, step to the podium if you would real quick, Mr. Egan. I've not sure we need any real questions answered. At this point, for time purposes, we do have an aggressive agenda tonight, but I will leave it to you, having read the tea leaves of the comments. I could ask a council member to make a motion for preliminary site plan and see if it is seconded. That is option one. For members of the public, that would require City Attorney Burgess a 5-member vote.
Preliminary site plan?
Four for preliminary. That would require 4, excuse me, thank you. Or you could respectfully withdraw your petition at this time and see where the wind blows, so to speak, either here in Grosse Pointe Farms or elsewhere. I leave that to you.
Is there any opportunity to be tabled one more time?
I think, I'm not sure that would work. I mean, what would be the purpose of tabling? What would you like to bring forward?
I think a lot of it is just answering the questions you brought up, and I think that the best way to make decisions is not in the facts. And so, I mean, I'm happy to address them now, or that's why it to be tabled, because, I mean, the biggest piece here is we keep bringing up traffic and parking. The reality is this zoning naturally, you just approved a breakfast spot. The size of that will have traffic impacts and parking impacts double what our building will. So if you put a restaurant or any other social use in there, if the complaint is traffic and parking, this is backwards. What you're saying is you're going to quadruple it compared to just allowing our use in there. So respectfully, with all this going through, I mean, I think it's very clear. I say the minor items of parking and traffic only in terms of you cannot find a better use. So the whole point of this is the overlay district, sure, that is a point of discussion. But everything else, it just comes back to you are choosing to appease a subset of people instead of the mothers and fathers desperately in need for this use, where they've said it from time and time again. And you ask, what else have we looked at? We've looked at 5 to 6 sites here for the last 20 years. Before me and my father built the only daycare in this city, the only 2 daycares in Detroit, the gross majority of the daycares in this whole state. So we've been looking here for years. You say, where else have we looked? Everywhere that's possibly come up. Childcare is a revenue capped business model, meaning you have a fixed amount of kids, you can charge a fixed amount for. It's not a restaurant where you can say, cram as many people as you want in there as fast as you can. So the gross point is expensive. There's no way around that. So where else can I find a 15,000 square foot building at a price point that works, where we're not charging $1,000 a week for a kid? It does not exist. There was the AAA building that was too small and too expensive. There was a medical office building at 2160 Mac Ave, too expensive, doesn't fit outdoor play area. There are multiple buildings in St. Clair Shores, but we didn't want to build it at St. Clair Shores, we wanted it in Grosse Pointe. The Toronto School, yes, they shut us down. Then there was also the Joanne Fabrics, we can't do that. So we have been looking for years, and I don't mean 5 years, I mean 20 years plus. So if you turn this down, there will not be childcare coming back here. We're not going to go through this hassle to come back here and try and find alternatives. We've been looking forever. And clearly these concerns are not about the facts, which are traffic and parking. Any alternative that's approved here will be dramatically worse, not slightly. And you're saying that these parents are incapable of safely transporting their children to the facility? That's just a slap in their face. We've done this hundreds of places across the country. That is extremely common. What's more concerning is a very high traffic route where a car could spin off. In an alley where you're going 5 miles an hour, you better think that mother's going to defend their child and make the reasonable decisions, not rush in there. So I say all this, again, very respectfully. I'm sorry for.
Yeah, I'm going to stop you and interrupt you. I don't believe that it was a hassle for you to come here, that it's a slap in the face. Any members' comments as you've just categorized them, quite frankly. I am here to lead dialogue as several people on a very, very important issue that's taken a lot of time. And I don't want to characterize it as you being here as a hassle or that it's a slap in the face to suggest on one person's comments about safety of people going through the alley. I think it's much bigger than that, quite frankly. But I give the option again to you. Would you like a motion made this evening and see how it goes? Or would you like to withdraw your petition and possibly, raise dialogue again or at a different location or something like that? I give that to you, sir.
That's good. We'll withdraw. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. Thank you.
That's good.
Next, please, on agenda is a consideration of a memorandum of understanding with Grosse Pointe Public Schools for emergency camera access. We're going to pause for just 30 seconds and we're going to 60 seconds. We're going to take this matter up.
It's not dead then.
Good though, Joanne.
It was almost threatening.
No, I was going to lean over and say that.
It was threatening.
This thing's gonna be on, right, this was.
They used to keep it during if you wanted to say anything.
So
That's Louis service type.
Right, this perfect. Malaria, hopefully you must not do it. Yeah.
Hopefully he would keep it. I'm expecting over.
It sure is in terms of traffic. Yes.
It's. Yeah.
A little bit aggressive.
Street. Sure did.
That's why that's going too far.
Right, it's going too far. Yeah. I didn't think, and you know what?
Just being maps.
Oh, so they haven't tried. They want to cheat.
Well, yeah.
They want to cheat.
Yeah.
You know, so if they've been able to go to Boston and Chicago and LA, they want to go to LA, do you think they're gonna pay
Yeah.
this price? No, they're gonna pay 10 times that.
What is it gonna cost to send a kid here?
Yeah, we don't know.
That's the thing.
We don't know.
Yeah.
They
No,
are
it's
like, what you did, that's exactly above average, when couple of costs. We are above it.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as cheap.
At all.
Health or child care.
You know what, I mean, yeah.
Well, it gotta be $400 or $500 a week, don't you think?
Yeah, no, I read.
$400 or $500 a week.
More than, and they have a three-day minimum.
I had a motion.
But he,
We should have just denied it.
guess what he should have done?
We shouldn't.
We should have denied it.
Yes.
Because, his tone got nasty. And why didn't, in his presentation when he first came, 20 years worth of research that we've done to locate a place. I'm looking for 20 years.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna be playing after one, you know?
I'm sure that there's enough, there's 82 school buildings. Gross Point South or Gross Point School District owns 82 buildings. I mean, you can't find rooms in these buildings somewhere.
Yep. Building a city.
Build like a couple stalls.
I don't know.
The problem is that.
I don't think it happened.
It was like. It was fine. That's. Well, that's. Yeah, it's like. That's on the. It's been crazy. It's been crazy game.
His brother's
Right.
probably is big.
Right.
He gave $1 million for it.
Exactly.
Okay. Now.
$1 million.
All right, continuing. Thank you all very much. Following a quick break, we're going to consider the memorandum of understanding with Grosse Pointe Public Schools regarding emergency camera access. City Manager Reside.
Actually, going to turn that over to Public Safety Director Hutchins.
Thank you.
Yeah, very briefly, when Dr. Cuttle was made superintendent of Grosse Pointe Schools, she met with all the directors of public safety and we were there to talk about some of her goals and for things like safety. And she asked us if we had any questions, concerns, or things she wanted to address. Andy and I asked her if she could look into accessibility to the cameras in the event of an active emergency. Things like active violence or fires or bomb threats or lockdowns, this type of thing is done across the country. It's been going on in Macomb County since I think 2018. So the board went back and forth for several months trying to hammer something out. This is what they came up with that they all agreed upon. It's a little short of what we would have liked to have seen, but it's much more than we have right now, which is no access in the event of an active emergency. So I would like us to consider it. I think it's a win, because in the event of an emergency, we at least have video, which could save kids' lives, the lives of staff members, the lives of officers, and so on and so forth. It would help us to pinpoint what we want. So, with that, we turn it back to you.
Thank you. City Attorney Burgess, have you had an opportunity to review the proposed security camera system live stream use agreement?
I did, and we, I interfaced with both Andy and John in terms of a couple of iterations of this, and I think, number one, I have no legal objection to it. Number two, as Hutch just said, we don't have anything now, so we're getting an incremental improvement.
Thank you. Are there any questions of members of City Council?
I just, one real quick thing. As I was a student during the Columbine attack, so I was a freshman in high school. And so the reality of school shootings and what can happen in those situations is very important and far more vivid to younger people today. I'm deeply appreciative that we are having this memorandum of understanding. I am also deeply appreciative of the thoughtful way in which it was written to ensure that there isn't things like use whenever the police department wants it, or more importantly, there is an AI being used to identify individuals. There's lots of important safeguards in here that ensure that this tool is used when it's needed by our public safety officers and students, teachers, and community parents and other community members know they can feel safe and have their privacy protected when it is not necessary in this way. So I'm appreciative of our legal counsel as well as the school districts and school board for putting together such a thoughtful plan.
Thank you. Anyone else? I would just add that I am in favor of this proposed use agreement. My daughter is a student at Brown University who was a block away from the god-awful tragedy when it happened, literally. And as we heard from numerous commentators afterwards, cameras. I think probably all of us have Ring doorbells. A big case in Ohio was just solved using Ring, more and more. I appreciate the cooperation of the Grosse Pointe Public School System in granting us access under very limited circumstances and think that it will benefit the community as a whole, quite frankly. I'd entertain a motion to approve the security camera system live stream use agreement contained within your packets.
So moved.
By Mayor Pro Tem Soroka, is there support?
Support.
By Councilman Ritchie. Any further discussion? Is there any public comment? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, the consent agenda, item number 9. Is there any?
8.
8, my apologies. Yes, the mayoral appointments to city boards and commissions. I've included within each of your packets, my proposed appointments to city boards and commissions. There's one minor amendment that I would like to make. I would like to add Councilperson Conrad Wilberding to the ordinance committee, please. And with that proposed amendment, I will move that it be accepted.
Support.
Motion from this seat, support by Councilperson Sierra Donovan. Is there any public comment? Any city council comment? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Next, the consent agenda.
Oh, just a moment.
Yes, please.
Mr. Mayor, with Derek, how do we handle the appointments of the 2 new commission members? Is that under?
It's on the
Other
It's on the consent agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's next.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. I'm considering on the consent agenda, the appointment of Cody Ball and Elizabeth Oberly Ball and the reappointment of Brian Fromm to beautification, consideration of reappointment of Kathy Champion and Tom Youngblood to the Board of Review, and consideration of a request to approve the city's 2025 December invoices. Is there anyone that would like something removed from the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, may I request letter A?
Item A will be removed for further discussion.
Carol, there.
No.
Oh,
Carol
is meant to be on there. She's in the map.
Yes, Mr. and Mr. Ball are here,
Oh,
and I wanted to introduce them and give them the opportunity
Perfect.
to say a few
From
words.
Fisher Road, come on up, Mr. and Mrs. Ball.
Do we have to vote to remove it?
Good point.
Oh,
Point to
Do we have
what?
to, do we have to vote?
We will. Let just as a point of privilege, introduce themselves and save them a little time. I think you're a UAD. We've spoken before.
Yeah.
Good evening. Introduce yourselves, please.
My name is Cody Overly Wallace.
I am Elizabeth Overly Fall.
And is it 408 Fisher?
480.
480 Fisher. Okay. Good evening and welcome.
You. So we recently moved here to Grosse Pointe Farms. It's one of our dream communities that we've always wanted to move to. I think it's very beautiful. We love the neighborhoods, the family oriented part of Grosse Pointe Farms, and how beautiful everyone's gardens are. So that's one of the reasons that we're interested in the beautification of Garza Council.
Good. We will take that matter up formally. We appreciate your interest in serving the community. We look forward to your work on beautification. And might I suggest possibly even more in the years to come. Okay. We welcome as much as you can give us of your time. Thank you very much. It's nice to meet you formally.
Thank you.
thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, let's first consider, please, item A, having been removed, the initial appointment of Cody Overly Ball and Elizabeth Overly Ball, and the reappointment of Brian Fromm to Beautification Advisory for 3-year terms ending January 31, 2029. Is there a motion in that effect?
Motion, oh,
By Councilperson Conrad Wilberding, is there support?
support.
By Councilperson Donovan. Any further public comment? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carried. Next, the remaining items on the consent agenda. Consideration of the reappointment of Kathy Champion and Tom Youngblood to Board of Review, and consideration of request to approve December 2025 invoices. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
By Conrad Wilberding, is there support?
Support.
By Councilman Jensen. Any discussion from the public? Any discussion from council? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Next, everyone in their package should have received the December 2025 Public Safety Report. Thank you, Directors Hutchins and Rogers. We appreciate that very much, and your reports each Friday. Next, I'm going to turn it over to City Manager Reside for other business.
Okay, a couple updates. The Southeast Macomb Sewer District pump station. I think Councilwoman Conrad Wilberding had requested a monthly update. We've been in constant conversation with the Southeast Macomb Sewer District. As I mentioned before, they were taking steps to order new filter medium for those pump stations for odor control. That was ordered mid part of last month with about a 4-week lead time. They're expecting that pretty much any day. And we'll be coordinating the installation of that medium with our Public Works Department as soon as that arrives. It's substantial. It's actually, when they're all said and done, they'll be removing about 40,000 pounds of medium and replacing with 40,000 pounds. So it's a significant project. And so
We use the same charcoal at our water plant, or is that?
very similar. It's a GAC,
Yeah.
gradually activated.
How much would we use here, just as an?
I'm not sure. I don't know that off the top of my head, but that's a large quantity. On a positive note, though, we have had some recent rainfall in the city, and with the colder temperatures, we've seen really a significant decrease in the frequency of odor and the intensity of odor. So, but we're anxious to get that installed and what impact that will have to those impacted neighbors. Pool project, things are progressing. We've spent the last couple of months working very closely with Barton Mello and our contractors in putting together final bid specifications for the community bathhouse and the pools and splash pads and other features. And so that is going well. As you know, we are bidding out much of that work in terms of hardscape and landscape portions of the project. Those bids are being let probably this week, end of this week, and we'll be back the first part of next month. And so we'll be in a position next month for contract awards and bond issuance. So our intent really is to begin construction by mid-March. So March 15th is our proposed beginning of construction with demolition, and we'll move from there. With that said, as the timing of those bids and when they come in, I'm going to recommend that, if possible, that we have a second meeting in February. And as you know, looking potentially at February 21st, which is a Monday, 2 weeks after our regular meeting, to have a meeting really just to tighten up loose ends with this project, award contracts, and again, approve bond issuance.
February 23rd.
21st.
21st is
Saturday?
Oh, is it?
23rd is
23rd.
the Monday.
Sorry, I apologize.
I just
23rd.
want to.
Yep.
you want to call that now?
Forgot what I was gonna say. Mayor, can I ask? a
Yes, sir.
question?
Of course, please do.
I forgot what I was gonna say, but, so what's up with the, can you just give us an update on the sewer project? Are we ahead of time? What's going on with our sewer?
Yeah, we're actually right on schedule, with there's obviously three divisions of the sewer project. Yeah, the first division that was approved, last year, has been under construction for the last, many months, has been, the force main and gravity main, that would go from the pump station location at Chalfont and Ross, to Lake St. Clair. And that's probably, I would say, 90% completed. So we're ahead of schedule there. We anticipated completion in March. Really, the last element there is a connection between the kind of a transfer structure that will cross the entrance to Country Club of Detroit. And we held off on that until after the holidays. So that will be, that work will be commencing in short term. Bids for the actual pump station with site plan approved at last month's meeting. That went out to bid last week. So the bids have been let for that. And the actual separation of the southwest quadrant, those bids are expected to go out the end of next week. So we'll be back with the bid. That would probably occur at our March meeting. We intend to come back with those bids and our recommendations at that meeting for phases, divisions 2 and 3, pump station and actual separation. And then last of all, I want to mention to everybody, Saturday, January 31st is our Winterfest, and down at the Pier Park. Again, a lot planned, a lot of activities go on with our ice carving, ice skating, ice sculptures, food trucks, putt-putt golf. I know the boat club is involved. They have a beer tent and have some activities as well. And I'm really happy that they're bringing back the chili cook-off. We haven't had the chili cook-off for since I think the pandemic. So people have wanted to see that again, and
Yes,
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
who's doing the chili cook-off to participate?
you can participate.
You can participate.
Let you sign up. We're so anyone who wants to participate, please contact Michelle down at the Pier Park, and we'll get your name entered.
And we are going to have a meeting of the Parks and Harbor Committee this Wednesday. I hope everyone can attend at 7 PM to go over all this. The city manager will be there to give an update. We've got a lot going on at the park this year. Mayor Pro Tem Soroka.
Yes, I just want to speak for a second on I just want to lift up that it got a little heated at the end of that discussion on daycare. And I think we also heard that there's a lot about the need in our community. And what I'm hopeful is that, right now, we do not have any spots in the city where we could put this daycare. I'm hopeful that the city may consider potential options of ways to use existing land that we have and work with organization potentially like Penn Family that has expressed real interest in our community to see if we can find a way forward. Because right now, we may not have options, but hopefully we could find some. There's no reason to say what those could be, may or may not be, but I'm hopeful that we will be proactive in exploring ways in which we could get daycare in our community if we weren't willing to let it happen.
Thank you. And I did speak with one of the representatives during the break. I advised him that I thought the comments of one of his colleagues were a little bit over the top and would not benefit his organization going forward. And I also encouraged him to contact the city manager in a week to discuss something going forward in a different location, if at all possible, but that the rhetoric regarding slaps in the face and things of that nature wouldn't serve anyone's interest. Any other comments from members of council? Mr. Wood?
I do. Mr. Mayor, I wanted to inform council and members of the public that Sierra Donovan and I the other day went to City of Sterling Heights, their city council. The purpose of our visit was to provide moral support if they needed it, but they probably didn't need that. But to support their effort to pass a crypto ATM regulation that we had passed. As you all know, we passed the very first one in the state of Michigan. And then it's my understanding that Harper Woods picked up on that. They passed it as well. And then last Monday, the city of Sterling Heights did as well. They passed it unanimously. They had previously had a great deal, the meeting before had had a great deal of discussion back and forth with, among other people, the group called AARP. The AARP is very, very turned on to this particular issue. It affects, grossly affects their members. They're people who are getting ripped off by these bad guys. And Sierra and I were impressed with their diligence and that city's involvement. And actually, they took our ordinance and they actually tweaked it and they made it a little bit stronger. They're a bigger city than we are, so they really made some bigger some upgrades, right, that we can maybe talk about in the future in the ordinance committee. The last thing that I wanted to say is that when I talked to them, I made a brief talk to them, and I said the one thing that we all need to do is it's great if Harper Woods and Grosse Pointe Farms and Sterling Heights has these ordinance for ATM devices, but what we need is a regional approach. What we need is everybody in our community, I say the SEMCOG region, the 7-county region, to all, adopt a similar kind of an ordinance. So that when the bad guys call somebody in Grosse Pointe Farms and says, take your money all the way over to Northville, they won't. Or they'll be less inclined to take their money over to Northville or wherever to put their money into this machine and get ripped off, right? So that won't happen until we have, as I described it, a regional approach to this. And so it's up to all of us, I think, to chat with our friends in different cities and including our fellow Grosse Pointes. I talked to Sheila the other day and she's going to try to, do that in the city. And so that's all. I just wanted to bring everybody's attention to that, but it's still a going thing.
Well done. Thank you both. Is there any public comment? Last agenda item. Anyone from the public like to comment on anything? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn with our sincere thanks.